Yeah, it'll have like little things, like little cubbies on the side of the.
Nobody has their phone in.
No, you can't.
What's the address of this building?
I mean, it's Nellis Air Force Base. You can go.
okay.
You can probably find it on GOHUNT Maps. I don't know if you guys have heard of that,
Shared
but
more
it's
than I
this
thought.
thing.
When you were saying that, if you ever been in a meeting that was just going on and on, I'd never had that experience with Porter.
Never with anybody in the leadership role.
Not one time ever. I've never had Porter.
Lorenzo does.
Lorenzo does get long.
those meetings.
Lorenzo gets long-winded.
He does.
I'm like deflecting because I know this is just going to be like a fest of like, listen to how dumb my decision making is in the hunting world. So I like you taking a little bit of heat here. Like,
it's going to be epic.
I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm glad you came. I appreciate it. On short notice, too. I didn't give you all that much notice. I appreciate you being accommodating.
Thank you, guys. You keep looking at
I
me
haven't
funny.
seen you since Christmas.
Has it been? Really?
Mm-hmm. You look great.
Hey, Happy New Year,
Happy
bud.
New Year. Happy belated birthday. I was a very bad friend. I didn't. He has one of the worst birthdays. No, I mean.
Oh, you could say it.
What
That's
day?
fair.
Think of like what day.
The 24th.
24th would be a bad one. I would say this is.
My brother's is the 23rd.
23rd is better than his. 24th is not great.
My wife's is New Year's Day.
New Year's Day.
How am I doing?
You're getting warmer. New Year's.
Bring your mic closer to your face, please.
Thank you, Jamie. I mean, Bougie Boar. If you had a microphone like I told you 2 podcasts ago, you could talk into it and people could hear you. Okay. Can you hear me better?
I can hear your angelic voice beautifully.
Angelic.
New Year's 2nd. New Year's Day, people are still kind of in the holidays.
Here's the thing about having a New Year's
January 2nd, everybody is like
out.
over
the holidays. Oh, and
Over
everyone,
celebrations,
yes,
parties.
and then he
Yes.
gets to have a birthday.
It's like Thanksgiving, cool. I'm a Christmas fan. Then it's Christmas. You're like, all right, that was cool, but let's party one more time for New Year's. New Year's Day, I feel like you could justify the midnight 12:01.
The thing
happy
about New Year's
birthday.
Day is like nothing's open. Like I remember,
that's true.
when we were in college, like it'd be her birthday and we would go out, like try to go out to eat, and we would hit every restaurant in town. Everything's closed.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
I'm just like, I can make you spaghetti.
I can warm it
Does that
up.
sound pretty good? Yeah. I can warm up spaghetti that you made 2 nights ago.
Anyway, happy birthday.
Leftover. Yeah. Anyway, happy birthday.
Anyway, happy birthday. Love you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, yeah, we got guests. We got special guests today. We got 2 of them.
2 of them.
2 special guests. Which one do you think is more special, Brady?
Scotty for sure.
Scott. 100% Scott.
You didn't think much about that, but
You're losing control. I don't understand.
I know.
Scotty B. I don't even know your last name.
Butler.
Butler.
Butler,
Were we allowed
yeah.
to say that?
I hope so.
I don't know. I looked on your Instagram page and it said Scotty B. And I was like, I wonder if he keeps that under wraps.
That is the entirety of my social media footprint is that one thing that my wife forced me to get maybe 3 or 4 years ago because we have kids and she's like, you're missing out on their life. I'm like, well, but I'm living with them.
Yeah,
I feel like
you're living with them every day.
I'm engaged.
Yeah.
I read that one a story before bedtime. So,
that's right. So
yeah.
I'm glad we took a picture.
What's your
yeah.
middle name?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Scotty Daniel.
Scotty Daniel Butler. Yeah,
your
that's
social?
it. That's it. You want my social? You guys want credit card numbers too? Is this there's a bright light
Do
shining
you not,
right
follow,
now. I
do
feel
you
like-
not follow him on social?
You what?
You don't follow him on social?
No, I asked for a social security number.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, I follow him on social.
gotcha.
If we ask questions that are too past the line of your field of expertise, you can just let us know. But we're definitely curious about certain things.
You guys
Maybe
can
explain
ask-
his background.
Yeah, so Scott's a friend to go hunt, first and foremost, I would say. Scott knows. I met Scott through Porter. You guys have been friends for a while. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll do a full rundown.
Ooh, I like that. I like where
Yeah.
that's going.
Let's hold. We want to hit a couple topics before we like formally get going. And we got lots of questions. Aliens, all kinds of stuff.
Yes. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You thought you came to talk about
Yeah.
hunting and like getting into hunting.
Are we
really?
hunting
Really, we
aliens,
just
or,
want
like,
to
what
know.
are we- Okay.
Yeah, really, we just want to know aliens.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Expect answers, hard answers.
Done.
I guess before we get really going, we want to do something like a little bit new for us, I guess. But we wanted to just talk. We had so much feedback. We had Newberg on the podcast. Newberg highlighted some things for us and for people that listen to the podcast. Basically, just how can they get involved in conservation? Because there seems to be so many issues. I think there always has been. I just think maybe they've been kind of flying under a lot of our radar, and a lot of us, myself included, admittedly, I've been a little bit lax in going out and finding the information and also just knowing what to do and when. So we kind of wanted to highlight a few things that are pressing issues. One of them being, I guess I should say, I think one of the best platforms to get information like this is Howl.
Yep. Howl for Wildlife.
Howl for Wildlife. Super cool website. If you guys click on that, it's got a link there of the issues that are kind of pressing. And it also has links from each individual story that they've highlighted that you can go in and find the comments links so you can submit comments.
Yeah, it makes it very easy to submit comments to these agencies, to whatever thing's going on, to
Super easy.
fight for our rights.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the best avenues to get involved is just to, read those, read up, educate yourself on the issues pressing at hand. And then if you have the opportunity to submit feedback. And it may not work out in your favor, but I think if the more of us that do it, the better the likelihood, the better the outcome that good things happen for hunters and for wildlife. So
100%.
So with that, a couple of them that I wanted to highlight that are pressing. I wanted to highlight this one primarily because it's coming up for your last day to comment would be the 12th. So this is going to drop the 11th. You'll have that day and the next day, Friday the 12th, to comment. And this is a couple of proposals in Alaska, Proposal 3 and Proposal 38, which would essentially eliminate non-resident hunting in units 21D, 22, 23, 24B, 24C, 24D, and 26A. I hunted Unit 23 a few years ago. We did
it up.
Yeah. We did a film on it, which was awesome. That was an incredible hunt of a lifetime for me. Saw a ton of caribou. We all killed caribou. It was a really fun hunt. But essentially, this proposal would, if passed, would eliminate non-resident hunting.
Do you want to explain non-resident for a second?
Do you want to take a stab at it?
Well, it's not what people are probably thinking, non-resident.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally residents of Alaska can't even hunt there, and non-residents, just subsistence.
Subsistence.
Hunters.
It's a hard one to say.
Yeah, I was tongue
It is with a
twister.
mustache.
That's why I wanted
gets
you
in
to
your
do
mouth.
it. But yeah, so it's not just a non-resident resident thing. It's a subsistence
I did not know
hunter.
that. I saw this popping up on social recently. Obviously, a huge change, but I'm learning right now too.
Yeah.
What's the driving force about this? Because caribou populations are insanely healthy, from what I.
Lower. I mean, this is the Western Arctic caribou herd. Historically, populations have been a lot higher. Like it is lower. We're down to like 164,000. I think is the one I read on Alaska Game and Fish website, which is down from what they would like to see. I think from the information that I could gather and read, they would like to see that population closer to 200, 350 thou, which is what it has been historically. It's interesting though, because if you look at the data and you read different stories, kind of the driving force behind that is adult cow survival mortality. I mean, it looks like your calving rate is down a little bit. Your yearling survival rate is kind of on par. It's good. Bull to cow ratio is good. So you're essentially kind of showing some issues with adult cow survival, which is your reproducing demographic of that population, right? And they're trying to figure out why. They don't really know exactly why. They don't know. I mean, there's probably some climate change issues that are going on. Herds aren't migrating in the same areas that they used to. And I think a lot of the driving force are these subsistence hunters saying, hey, these caribou are not where they historically have been. We can't, harvest the caribou that we need to subsist.
Yeah.
And, they're basically saying we think it's non-resident hunters. They're disturbing these migration routes. And just some statistics, non-resident hunters average, I looked at it was from like 2014 or 2016 to 2024. They're killing about an average of 260 bulls, bull only, primarily bulls, total non-resident hunters. So 260.
It's going to be my next question. I mean, the number of actual harvests cannot be that high.
260. Subsistence hunters average between 10,000 and 14,000. So those subsistence hunters can harvest as many as 5 a day. So
we're not really solving the problem then of increasing the density of the population then?
We're not really. And that's the thing is it's like, how do you increase populations? Like the more I dive down these rabbit holes, I mean, whether you're talking mule deer or caribou, so much of it is like Mother Nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't think that eliminating non-resident hunters, which are, like I said, on average killing, 260 bulls per year, is not the driving force in population decline, for sure. So for me, if I look at this, and I'm a little bit biased because I want to hunt caribou, I'm a non-resident, right? It's a loss of opportunity for me as a non-resident. So
without the problem being solved.
Without the problem being solved.
If we have to sacrifice for the greater good for a couple years or whatever, that makes sense. But like this is like
Yeah, it's just
doesn't seem
limiting
like
a
you're doing
specific group.
Yeah.
What's the revenue loss?
Oh, it'll be pretty massive. Yeah, not just in tag sales, but you have all those transporters,
bed and breakfast,
bread and breakfast, grocery stores, all that stuff. All that travel, everything associated with it.
I was just going to ask if you guys would entertain a dumb question. There's going to be a theme here of dumb questions. So like,
From us towards you.
No.
So get ready.
I was
About aliens.
I was going to ask. Well, your opening was, that they think that the non-resident hunters are pushing the herd into places they shouldn't be. And so then my natural thought was, so is it the airplanes that are flying the non-resident hunters in, or is it the footprint of the people that are back there? Is that part of their argument to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then
Essentially, the way I understand it is that all the above that you mentioned is essentially disrupting caribou migration to areas that they would have historically, migrated. But I should say everything that I've read, none of the science suggests that any of the issue is directly related to non-resident hunting, which is, like I said, primarily bulls. But I bring this all up to say, in the grand scheme of things, like if caribou hunting is something you're interested in, hunting in general, I would say non-resident hunting in any state, comments, read up on it, read everything you can find. Hopefully if you're listening to this, I gave you just a blip into it. So do some reading and take the opportunity to comment, and we can drop a link. I know we also just did a social post the other day and dropped a link. Yeah. So be aware of that. Like I said, I wanted to highlight that one because it's coming up on the 12th.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
We talked in our meeting. We want to do more too internally. Got to figure that out. I mean, we've been doing this 10 years or whatever. It feels
hot.
Yeah. Like it's scary. Like we could lose a lot of rights over the next 5 to 10 years if we're not careful.
Yeah, and there's, we've talked a little bit about wolves in Colorado. There's another one that's potentially coming up in November of 2024, which will eliminate feline hunting, so mountain lions, bobcats,
Initiative 91.
feral cats.
And John from How for Wildlife, he made a post the other day about everyone's complaining about the wolf thing in Colorado, but the time to complain or comment was in 2020. I thought that resonated with me.
Yeah, that's literally what Trail and I talk about daily, that everyone's so fired up right now and trying to divide people about like calling people out. When it's like, no, you guys should have been upset about this a long time ago.
Right.
That's why you should be upset right now about the mountain lion thing in Colorado. Start voicing your opinions. We're voicing opinions about this thing in Alaska. Like
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
All you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not like scot-free of this kind of stuff because like I have not done due diligence at all.
Yep.
Like I've been pretty like it's that NIMBY, not in my backyard. We talk a lot about that in natural resources. We got an acronym for it. Have you heard that one?
I like that. I had not heard
Military's got none of those. I know that.
NIMBYs, we're going to add that to the repertoire.
Do you not have that one?
No, that's brand new to me.
Yeah, not in my
NIMBY.
backyard.
Not in my backyard.
That's a natural resource like associated.
You're welcome to use it.
I think I will.
You can borrow. You're going to sound really smart. You can get to me.
This has been transformational already.
But it's like that not in my backyard syndrome. Like it's just not happened to me. I'm okay. I got my tag and I'm going here and there. But I mean, reality is all this stuff is kind of leaking in no matter where you live. I mean, if you look at Colorado, I never thought I'd see a day when, we'd be considering putting mountain lion, bobcat hunting to a ballot vote. And then using that as your precedence, like we're going to manage wildlife based on a popular vote.
Yep, scary trend.
Yeah, which is it's a shitty trend. I hate it. It just sucks. It shouldn't be the way.
So here's something I want to read, because every time I've ever posted about this stuff on social, I always say like, well, I might not ever hunt Washington, but I keep supporting, Washington spring bear season. I keep doing all this voicing all the time. Like you just said, like people think it's not in your state, so you don't have to worry about it.
I saw one for on Hal's website for offering feedback in support of a black bear hunt in Louisiana.
Yeah.
I've never been to Louisiana.
Yeah.
But suddenly I'm like, yeah.
You on board with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You should,
I mean, I should.
You should look at it and be comment. So here's a quote that I shared it back last year, but it's from Conservation Coalition of Washington. They summed it up perfectly. All right. I'm not sure who exactly did this there, but whoever did, kudos to them. First, they came for the California hunters, and I did not speak out because I was not a California hunter. Then they came for the Washington hunters, and I did not speak out because I was not a Washington hunter. Then they came for the Colorado hunters, and I did not speak out because I was not a Colorado hunter. Then they came from my state, and there was no one left to speak for me.
There you go.
You have to support hunting all across all the states. Even if you're never going to go there, you need to still stand up, support, drop your comments in,
Yeah.
because we're all hunters at the end of the day.
Yep. Anyway, so I just wanted to hit that up top because I thought it was important to get more involved and make people more aware. And we did have a lot of feedback of people reaching out saying, I don't know what to do. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit
I
of
love that. We could take like 10 minutes of every episode or something and
Yeah.
do like a hot
Mm-hmm.
take. I'm like the same as like the people commenting to you guys on social and stuff of like what to do. Like,
Yeah, and also we should say too, the Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife
Yeah.
Management. Definitely check out their
yeah,
website.
doing a good job.
And
we're
support
going to
them
try
if
to
you
get
can.
those guys on a podcast when we're in Salt Lake. So at the Hunt Expo. So we'll get those guys and I'm sure we'll spend them all the time talking about issues like this. So anyway, with that, we're going to roll right into the next portion of the podcast, the main event.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Aliens. Here we go.
People still have no idea who this guy is.
We're
Yeah.
15 minutes in. I'm supposed to hit promo code within 5 minutes. I've been told by marketing. So I'm 10 minutes late. Do you want to hit us with a promo real quick and then we'll really dive deep?
Let's rip us with the promo code. So yeah, just going to put it right on me like that. But yeah,
Lay it on you.
It's application season. You guys need to do some research, as you guys all know. Hopefully you use it. Use promo code podcast when you sign up for an insider membership. We're going to give you 50 points back to the GOHUNT Gear Shop. 1 point is $1, and like I said, it's application season. But the biggest thing I want to talk about in conjunction with this, why you should definitely check it out, is we just launched a brand new feature to the GOHUNT app. Pretty groundbreaking feature. It's now we have filtering and research tools.
Porter looks like a proud dad over there. Look
And
at that.
he's like, yeah, he's like, I knew I was hoping you were going to do that.
We launched
Like
today.
if one
today.
of his girls just got a citizenship award in school, this is the same look I would see on Porter's face over there. He's got the lips. Yeah. Uh-huh.
know?
Yeah.
So basically,
fun day, for
like I said, filtering and research tools in the GOHUNT app. So in the mobile app. So now you can literally research 24/7, 365 at your fingertips, more than a map, comprehensive hunting app.
We did that for Scott so he can research while he's flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may have had a sneak peek like Friday. Today's the launch day of that
Yeah.
actual
Yeah.
capability. So you let
gave-
me see it a couple days early. I was on the road this weekend with my kids. We were going up to Utah to go skiing.
Did you go Brian Head?
I did.
You didn't stop in?
Well, I didn't have the invite, bud. But now
You're always invited.
NIMBY. I spent hours on that this weekend. I was texting you the whole time.
You have great feedback. I shared that, by the way, on
You
Slack.
did,
Oh,
yeah.
did you?
Tech.
Yeah, it was all Wyoming. It was
Yeah.
just that I guess window just opened, and so I was just when I was jamming on it, trying to get smart.
Yeah,
Nice.
so it's super sweet. I'm pumped that we can use it in the app now. We research all the time.
100%. And like when the first main feature we did in the app was maps, which is a very technically difficult thing to build, right?
Yeah.
And now adding other features to it that are not necessarily mapping based just to make it a full hunting app. And so the roadmap's pretty packed. It's fun.
You
And
can
people
literally-
are stoked. You see all
Oh, the comments for today were
Are
crazy. You can now use it, all year, which is the greatest thing too. It's not just in the field. It's not just for scouting. Now you have a purpose to use it right now during app season. When you're sitting around doing anything with some family, maybe you're.
You could use
want to
use it on a date, Brady. You been on any dates lately?
But we saw like people.
We'll get into that one later.
It was built for like desktop web, right?
Yeah.
But 60% of our traffic was people using it on their phone. And we're like, do we need to build it where they are, right? And people obviously want to use it on their phone for whatever reason. Convenience obviously is probably number one. But
So
Yeah,
just
so-
to be clear, if you got the GOHUNT app, you got it on your phone,
Yep.
which is historically it's been a mapping app, right?
yep,
So now you've got an icon. It says what? Research.
It says research. Yep. This is the middle button.
Middle button. You just click on research. And it's going to take you to the opportunity to filter, right? And use the
Yep.
use the filters,
yep.
which is
In 2 seconds, you just pull up Colorado deer, plug in your points, whether you have some or no points, elk over the counter, and you can start to filter by the criteria that's important to you very quickly.
yeah.
And the big thing is, no matter whether you're a super experienced hunter, this saves you a lot of time, or a newbie hunter like Scott, which we want your perspective, is like showing them opportunities they had no idea about.
It was actually like, it was very, very easy. I have an 11-year-old son. He's never been on a hunt. I mean, he's iPhone savvy-ish. He doesn't have a phone. Dad won't let him have his own phone. But
How old?
he's 11. I handed him my phone.
He's a very strict father.
I hope.
I was gonna say, how old before you get a phone?
Here we go. Yeah. So
18, like it'll be like a high school gift when they go to college.
no, but I handed him the app, and I was just like, "Hey, bud, we're looking at Wyoming right now." And he, to your point, Trail, he's just like, "Boom, there's that." And he's like, "What do you want? Where are we talking about?" I was like, "Go to Wyoming." You know, and the next screen pops up. It's like Wyoming, and it's like this, and then he's like, "What's trophy potential?" I was like, "Here we go," and it was easy, and the desktop app was open because we had like a computer nearby, and it was the Wyoming app strategy article. And so, as a guy that's never been to Wyoming to go hunting, I'm trying to learn about the west, south, east region, what units are in there, and what are the draw odds? Because I have next to 0 points, so it's like, is this a lottery or whatever? I'm sure we'll get into that, but it was wildly easy, and I was like, boom, 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 and sent you some feedback on things.
Great feedback.
Well, I don't know about that, but it was definitely like, here's some hurdles I came across just farting around with it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good.
And that's one of the reasons we want to have you on today, among others. Like I said, you're a friend. I've been on a hunt with you.
Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting about Scott? I take people typically on like face value, like that first interaction, and I was like, I like this guy.
Wow.
Like straight out the gate, I like Scott. It's good dude. I could tell. So I appreciate that
He's a very good
you said
guy.
yes.
Well, Chris like pre-briefed me. He's like, don't embarrass me in front
You're
of
like,
these guys.
Charles
These
kind of an asshole.
These guys are
Just take him.
killers. These guys
Yeah.
know what they're doing. Just act like you've been there before, please.
Yeah.
I've been on a hunt with him too.
Yeah, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys
Antelope
went
hunt we
antelope
went on.
hunt.
We smoked a giant.
Yeah.
That was a fun hunt.
Yeah.
But you're somewhat new to hunting, right?
I am. Yeah. For first hunt was 2020, fall of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so would you call yourself an adult onset hunter? Is that's
For sure, adult onset hunter, which has consequences too. When you're married and you have a family, and this is not something you grew up doing, certainly wasn't around at the beginning of your marriage. It was like, hey babe, I'm gonna go to Utah for like a week. Probably not gonna have cell reception. Anyway, love you. Bye.
Is she a little bit used to that though? Give us some background on who you are, where you're from, what do you do?
Okay, so friend of Chris is I live in Vegas here. I'm in the Air Force. I'm a pilot for the Air Force.
What do you fly?
I fly F-16s.
Oh shit!
Those sound effects don't usually happen in other places.
You're gonna that's gonna be you're gonna be humble, Scott?
No,
and I need to
we're
explain who you really are.
Yeah, I would like the real version, not your Hollywood version. But no, but yeah, active duty guy. I've been in the Air Force for almost 20 years now. Went to the academy in 2000. Went to pilot training after I graduated. Been lucky and fortunate. Been stationed overseas a few places, a couple of combat deployments, and been flying basically the whole time. And for those that don't know, Vegas has a massive Air Force base, and it's pretty much the center of tactical aviation for the U.S. Air Force. And
Really?
yeah, it is
The whole nation?
Yeah, Porter's heard this joke before, but like the U.S. Navy got Jerry Bruckheimer, and they made some pretty entertaining films, and it's like super awesome, and everybody like thinks that the pinnacle of tactical aviation is like the U.S. Navy. I'm like, their job is to control the sea, and yeah, airplanes are a part of that, but it's that it's. I'm going to say something, it'll probably get me in trouble, but I'm not on social, so I don't care. It's like, it's a little bit like asking a PGA pro to like go to miniature golf. You know what I mean? It's like,
But like, don't you think you're a little bit biased because you're from the Air Force? Like
I
Top
could be.
Gun seems very legit to me.
I could be, yeah. And
Top
Porter's,
Gun.
Porter's poking the bear. He's poking the bear right now.
Well, Top Gun is
You said
what he's
you
explaining.
think the movie Top Gun seems pretty
Let me
legit? Is
explain
that
it
what we're saying?
in layman's terms? Top Gun is all these pilots, and what he's saying is that's out of the Navy. He's out of the Air Force, which you would think Air Force is
Yeah.
Yeah,
where the best pilots are, but the Navy thinks
So we have a schoolhouse. This is like a lesson. This is like fair because it's not about me. It's more about the Air Force. We run a school out at Nellis, right? It's called the U.S. Air Force Weapons School. It's a syllabus. It's a 6-month-long flying, really leadership course where you have to apply. There's like an application. There's not a strategy. There's no apps that can help you with it.
no draws.
but we bring in pilots and intel officers and, people from all different walks of Air Force life to Nellis, and they volunteer for that opportunity, and it's highly selective. And then you, for 6 months, become like a subject matter expert in your chosen platform. You have to already have been serving for 5 to 7 years. You've already had to separate yourself from your peers before you can even apply. And then of that, we kind of filter that down even further. And then there's about a 20-ish or so % attrition ratio for the guys that come through. So, does the Navy have a school like that? They sure do. It's called Top Gun, and that's what the movie is based on. I don't want to be disparaging. I got fun with a lot of Navy guys. I did Navy flight school for the first 6 months of my flying life. They're really, really good pilots. They have good stuff. They are capable guys and smart, but just from a scale perspective, it's totally different, right? The U.S. Air Force's job is to fly. And
It's called the Air Force.
their school started out being 6 weeks long, if memory serves, and then it's kind of graduated to about 10 weeks now. That's a standard Top Gun class. Might be 12. I'm sure somebody in the comments will correct me. Ours is 6 months long. So it's just an order of magnitude different. And then because of Nevada and because of the airspace we get to fly in, and the amount of resources we throw at it. I mean, each student that graduates weapons school, we spend about $6 million on fuel and bombs and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, my career's taken a lot of
They
different
can
turns.
take off on ships, though. Have you actually taken
never
off or
done that.
landed on a
Never done
carrier
that. Seems hard.
So speak.
Anytime I want to get under his skin, I just talk about how the Navy's
Do you know why you
pilots are
can't?
better.
He's going too fast.
That's right.
Yes.
You can't go
I
slow.
like runways that don't move.
Like
go
when the new
slow.
Top Gun came out,
I'm on
I was like,
Scott's. I'm on Scott's
dude,
side.
this movie so legit. Have you ever flown? Can you fly that well? And he just gets. So the class in that movie is like their equivalent of the weapons school. The Air Force is probably higher rated or whatever. It's the Air Force, right? But
Yeah.
he ran that school literally at Nellis for a couple years.
That's right.
He's not gonna brag about himself, but I'll brag for him. He's probably a top 3 pilot we have in our entire Air Force. He's got security clearance that people at the Pentagon don't have. He's
In this room right
been
now.
deployed. Yeah, Bougie Boar might have a higher clearance than him, but
I have his cell phone number.
Yeah.
I can.
he's
I
been
can text him.
deployed. Can you talk about where you were deployed?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Where were you
So,
deployed? I mean, last summer. I had to watch your kids.
Operation Iraqi Freedom was, I think, the first one. So that was, Iraq.
How old were you when you were?
Oh man, put me on the spot. This is 2009, I think. So
Gotcha.
was it 28?
Wow.
28 at the time. When you graduate flight school, the U.S. Air Force, they love to grade everything that you do. And it's a merit-based system for the most part. So, everybody goes to pilot training, gets your license to fly, and then everybody flies the same thing for about 6 months. You're getting graded, and at the end of that 6 months, they go, "Hey, what do you want to fly?" And then you put in your dream sheet, and you're like, "Hey, man, I want to fly, cargo planes full of rubber dog shit." I'm just kidding. And then you probably have to edit that out. I'm sorry. And then
Is that what we're dropping nowadays?
no, so you pick your airplanes, and if your graduating order in your class is high enough, then they'll hook you up, right? So then the track kind of separates. You either go fly.
What's like the hierarchy of planes that somebody would want to fly?
Generally speaking, there are a couple guys that'll graduate at the top of their pilot training class, and on tracks like they'll choose to go fly. C-17s are big cargo airplanes or refuelers or stuff because that's what they gravitate towards. Generally speaking, I think at least when I was going through the higher your graduating order, the more likely you were to go to fighters or bombers. And then the pass diverge. You go fly a different jet. It's faster. It's a jet trainer. Or you go fly like a Learjet looking thing. You do that for another 6 months. They grade you again. And then at the end of that year, 15-month process, they go, "Hey, what fighter or what bomber do you want to fly?" And their contract is if you graduate, at least when I went through, if you graduate at the top of your class, so number 1, they'll give you whatever you ask for. And then everybody else is kind of the needs of the Air Force at the time. Then you go off to F-16 school. That takes, 12-ish months, or actually 9 months, I think. And then you get your first operational squadron. For me, that was Germany. I deployed while I was in Germany over to Iraq. And then got stationed here at Nellis where I met this fine man sitting next to me. And then from here, deployed a few other times. So went to Pakistan once, which is not a lot of great hunting. I heard Lorenzo once talk about going on a pretty awesome sheep hunt in like the northern regions of
you
that.
immediately said
I
that's
was
not
like, I was
safe.
like, hey, but I don't know you very well, but like, what? Like, where are you going?
Shouldn't
South
do that.
Korea.
Then did a remote assignment. So I got asked to, I got a chance to go to weapons school as a student, which was phenomenal in that time frame there. And then I got asked to be an instructor at weapons school, and I hadn't been remote. And so I volunteered to go to Korea for a year, which the family stays here, and you go overseas for a year, which is pretty tough. I have an awesome wife who's extremely tough and capable. So she held the fort down, had 2 kids at the time. Came back, taught at weapons school for a few years, and then off to Rhode Island for some developmental education for about 11 months. It was the only time I've been out of the cockpit in my 20 years. Came back, got a chance to be a commander out at weapons school of the same squadron I went through when I was a student, which was unbelievable.
2 more kids at some point.
Yeah,
Let's go 4
I
total.
finally figured out how that
Nice.
happens, and then I think
Did the
we're good.
math.
I think we're good now. There's no
You're really good
population.
at that, though.
There's no population density problem in my herd. Like, that's-
Hey, if you're from Utah, we could add 2 more. I bet.
yeah, in Utah, I'm like, I'm not even in
That's
the
right.
conversation. That's
That's
like,
right.
it's
Just
baby
getting
stuff.
going at 4.
And then you traveled a couple summers ago.
Yeah, so then the Ukrainian conflict kicked off, and then volunteered to go over there and try to help out a little bit. So I did that for about 5 months last summer. That's what Porter and his family were looking in on my crew while I was gone, which was great to have a network of guys around here.
What's it like flying an F-16? Like how do you describe it?
In a word, fast.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that.
How fast does one go?
She's on paper, she's Mach 2 capable, so it's about 1,300-ish miles an hour, depending on your altitude.
It's a she.
Yeah, you got to treat her nicely, right?
We were.
Like,
I'll give you perspective.
1,300.
yeah.
We're driving from Vegas.
It must be so boring driving for you. Is it?
Yes.
Like if you're doing 85 on a freeway, it must seem like you're stopped.
It's more frustrating when you're
Oh, I
like,
bet.
you're like, dude,
He's constantly looking in the sky. But then so we were driving from Vegas through Grand Junction, and then you hit, like in between Grand Junction and was it Rifle? You go through that little canyon stuff. He's like, oh, I flew this a couple years ago. This is great. And I was like, oh, were you like out at the Colorado base? He's like, no, out of Nellis. I'm like, well, how long does it take you to get from here to Nellis?
How would you say 35 minutes or something?
we had
I
a
was like,
tank
what?
that day, so we took off. Yeah, it was like 12 minutes or something like that. It's
My
crazy.
gosh.
Yeah,
That's insane.
I was in
How long?
Tonopah.
No, seriously. From Grand Junction to Nellis is like 30 something
I don't remember
minutes.
that one. Yeah, that one's the
It's
better
less
one.
than an hour though.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Tonopah one, because you guys know where Tonopah
I mean,
is,
that,
right?
that drive is
Holy
7.5 hours.
smokes.
Yeah,
That's
it's crazy.
blowing my mind.
And you would go, so a drive.
yeah, we had to actually meet a tanker that day. So we took off on Nellis. We had to get some gas, and then we left the tanker. So that slowed us down because we had to stop for a pit stop, and then
1,300 miles an hour.
that's like the top end speed. That's
yeah,
not.
but
I mean,
still, like that's
normal fighting airspeed, you're probably around, you're 400-ish knots, so you're 450-ish miles an hour. The most fun thing to do is fly low and fast, which is
how far up off the ground are we talking?
I'm qualified to 100 feet, so
Dang.
that'll get your blood pumping. 100 feet and 500 miles an hour is moving.
When he's had a couple times when he's been deployed, you were in your plane for like 7 hours straight. And the plane is like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little Indy car. The longest one I did, I think at the time I had, for our squadron, at least on that deployment, I had the record for the longest one because we had a bunch of bad weather roll into Iraq. And at that point, we had a bunch of Army guys on the ground at different bases, and they were getting socked in. So we were just kind of bebopping around trying to provide them support while they were trying to get back to their bases in this big dust storm. So then everybody landed, and then like the runways got bad, so there was nowhere to land. So we were just kind of getting gas from a tanker. That one was a 9.5 hour sortie, and so you add about an hour of sitting in the airplane before and after takeoff. We diverted into some random little place, and I landed. My legs had fallen asleep because you're sitting in this thing.
gosh.
I just
Yeah, I can't get
picked
out.
my leg up and threw it over the side of the jet, and then you felt the blood rush back into your leg. I was like, I'm gonna need a second before I come down there. So it was a long day.
Do you want to hear something totally random?
Totally.
I want to tell you this on the podcast.
Completely and totally random.
But it involves flying and involves F-16s.
And Brady.
And me. So we're talking about dating earlier. I recently went on a date with a girl who's an F-16 pilot based out of here. So I might need to ask you if you know her.
Let's take
You
this take this one off camera, but
Yeah.
it's not a large community, so I'm sure I've met her or know her.
I'm sure she'll never listen to this podcast, so I'm just going to bring
Sorry,
it up.
Brady, it's not going well.
If she's not going to listen to this podcast,
Pull up her Hinge profile and just let's see
Yeah.
if we have visual recognition.
So yeah,
we
small world.
it is a small world. It is a very small world. We won't say her name on the podcast,
Yeah,
but
probably shouldn't.
just turn your computer
After
and I'll be
we
like, yep,
just do this,
sure,
whether okay.
So I figured I'd just tell you that. We can talk off air and I can ask you about her.
for sure.
Get the intel.
If she doesn't listen to this podcast, so I have questions about where this relationship is going.
Exactly.
So,
She should.
like,
She
On
needs
her
to.
behalf or his?
maybe both. I mean, you're clearly interested in flying jets, so like, you know,
I was like Trail earlier when I was on the date. I was asking so many questions. It was phenomenal.
yeah.
Do you have your own plane? Is it like your plane?
You get your name. You get your name on the side of a jet. That tradition started way back in World War
Does it say
II.
Scotty on it?
What's your call sign?
It says your rank and then your name and your call sign in the middle, and then that's it.
Do you have like any cool painting on it, like shark teeth, like those, like the World War II?
Some of those are out there. Ours are not.
Yours
Ours are.
isn't.
So the tail flash. So if you look at any U.S. Air Force jet fighters, the top of the tail has the letters of the base that's stationed at, and then there's like a color scheme on top of it. And ours out there. We're the 16th Weapon Squadron. We're the Tomahawks. So we have our slogan is red for blood and black for death, and they have a red and black checkered paint scheme on the top of it. So it's pretty cool.
Red for blood, black for death.
There you go. That'll get me some street cred with the boys. That you guys start saying that'll be money.
I thought you were cool before, but
I think you guys are cool. I can't wait to start peppering you guys with questions.
red for blood, black for death. I think I'm going to a tattoo place just after this. I got to get that.
Dude, when we
just
were
kidding.
hunting in Colorado, like this is last year. He's like brand new to hunting, right? He went on my elk hunt this year and he's like getting the hang of it, but he was awkwardly comfortable and very good at turning up animals in his binos. And this is a guy who's been hunting like maybe his third time. Last year we were there in Colorado on my deer hunt. And I remember going like, dude, how do you know how to navigate this well? How do you know how to pick up, deer and binos from 1,500 yards away, 2,000 yards away like this? And Lorenzo looks at me. He's like, dude, he's been hunting humans for 20 years. And I'm like, but there is absolutely elements where he is not new
Yeah.
hunting.
That might be revisionist history.
To that regard, what is it that makes a good pilot, like a good fighter pilot?
I was thinking about this yesterday in preparation for this podcast, just like because you were like, we're going to fire some questions at you. And I was like, all right, this is going to get weird.
I didn't give you the questions though. I
think flying wise, there's a lot of corollaries, like the mission planning and the preparation. The Undy King is sitting next to me here, but the logistics, like where you.
Sorry, I just fighter pilot and the Undy King.
That's my boy right there.
That one's sticking in
It
his
just hit.
No, but you guys said it on a couple podcasts ago, right? Like the logistical, you enjoy the logistical aspect of planning a hunt, right? Where you're gonna camp, where you're gonna get water, what the travel time is from point A to point B. All of that's very similar to flying, right? Like how much fuel do I have? Where am I navigating? Who's coming with me? When I get there, if I get into trouble, what am I gonna do? Having a plan is really what separates. It's sort of like, an analogy in sports sometimes is people talk about the speed with which like that athlete's just like operating at a different level. And a lot of times it's because they've seen it before. And so it just looks like they're faster, but really they're just a step ahead because they're reacting. In the flying game, stuff's happening too fast for you to just like get airborne and then figure it out, right? So you have to prep. You have to be disciplined in your approach to get out there, which is one of the reasons I think when I got exposed to hunting, I was like, man, this is a lot of fun. I mean, Chris is being like overly complimentary about like my glassing skills, but it was, I also have the luxury of like, I get this inroad to like 75 years of hunting experience at the table. Right. And so in Colorado, when I met Trail, you probably don't even remember this, but we were sitting there, you sent us to a knob trail and I went to somewhere to go glass. And when we got up there, you were like, hey, I'm going to go over here. And we were looking across a little stretch of private, and there was like a valley on the other side, and we found a herd of elk when we were looking for deer, which I guess is somewhat common. And you with the naked eye were like, oh yeah, there's a couple bulls in there. I mean, they were like 800 yards away. And I was like, I got pretty decent eyes. I was like, what? And you said something about how to spot bull elk in a herd based on the color of their hide, right?
Right.
Like, hey, look for a little bit more blonde. I've never forgotten that. So like you say, hey, it's like easy, but what you're leaving out is that like when we were leaving the trailhead that day, I'm peppering you and Lorenzo with dumb questions about like, hey, are you glassing for movement? Are you glassing for antlers? Are you looking at the top of the tree line? So it's not like I went out there by myself and just was like getting lucky. It was like I was trying to ask semi-intelligent questions because I'm still shocked when you guys throw glass up. Like on this year's hunt when I was helping you, I can turn up an animal. I can't score an animal. So like, I'm like, Lorenzo, do you see that deer over there? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, big, small.
Yeah. How old is it? Yeah.
And you probably don't remember. Remember we were scouting your Nevada elk? And the first hill we walked up on. So Porter takes me to Nevada. This is your broken bull hunt, right?
Yeah.
But before this is scouting.
we were scouting in August.
Yeah. And I literally have never done it. So,
That was like the very first time you ever like.
for sure.
Put
I'm
eyes on
borrowing
glass,
gear.
yeah.
Like, we're going up. He's like, dude, we're gonna smash and grab. We'll get out of town. We'll get up early. We'll glass that morning, that night, maybe the following morning. Then we'll be back in Vegas. I'm like, sounds good. So we hike up some steep knob or whatever, and he's like, all right, just look over there. And I, put my pack down. I get my glasses out, and then Porter's like hyperventilating. Like 10 seconds later, he's like, whoa, whoa. And I was like,
Sound nice.
I was like, what? And he's like, look. And I, there's 6 bulls on this hillside. It wasn't the broken bull that you found, but we turned up big elk.
Dude, it was that real long. It was like a 370, 380 bull. That within 12 seconds of glass on the eyes, it's like the first spot you look.
It's always
That's the
amazing.
best.
It's always amazing how sometimes the first spot you look, you can
Oh,
find an
God,
animal.
it was such a stud bull. And I remember going, Scotty, you might never see a bigger bull in your life. Just look at that thing and enjoy it.
Take it in.
That's true.
Take it in.
That's true. So I guess back to your question, it's all of those things. It's the planning, it's the preparation, it's the commitment to doing it right. You can't just like wake up on a Friday morning and decide you're going to go hunting and expect to be successful. The same is true of flying. So
It must take incredible amount of discipline, I would think, to have gotten to be where you're at.
It
It would have to, wouldn't it?
Maybe
It would have to.
I'm a very competitive dude. I don't.
Competitive and disciplined.
Yeah.
You know how Lorenzo can just flip a switch and like eat perfect for 45
Yeah.
days or what? Like he can do the same thing.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. And he geeks out on plans like just as much as I do.
Yeah.
Like
you
he's
hear it from
peppering me.
stalking. Yeah.
Remember when he came by? He's like, "I need to know the plan." I'm like, "I got it dialed." He's like, "No, I need to know it." And he's thinking.
What if I
his-
can't talk to you? What if we're out of communication, man?
And
Like,
the whole drive to Colorado, he's like, "Okay, we're doing this and this." Like he's into it. That's I think that
Well,
that
basically,
flight
what
planning.
I'm getting from this is you two together is making you even more of a logistics king because he's like
He
you're
enjoys
taking
it
all
too.
this intel from him too,
Yeah.
and you're giving it to him. Like you guys are just
Or if I grow up and you guys see me 8 or 10 years from now, you're like, why are you this way? It'll be because he
Yeah,
he
exactly.
did it.
Exactly.
This is like the bad or the great example.
I
Like
could
it-
ask you a billion more questions about flying, but we should probably dive
what about the
into
alien one?
it. Yeah. Have you ever seen an alien?
No.
Never.
That
Nothing
was
up
a
there
big-
weird.
that was
Come on.
That was a lot.
Hey, are
was
you
a
like?
lie.
I mean, are you asking me like philosophically?
I don't believe what you just said. That was a lie. You
What's
looked at
Area
it.
51? Tell us right now. Blink twice if you can't tell.
What's Area 51?
What's Area 51?
You haven't seen anything?
No, you
Nothing
asked me
weird?
this one time, like off
I
camera.
know because
and
I've seen one.
Yeah, I have seen.
I had one try to abduct me.
That is a way more impressive story that you should actually tell.
I've told it. I think.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that
podcast.
one.
He like
What episode is that?
I can't remember.
Canvas cutter. The canvas cutter on.
Oh yeah, with
We'll
Canvas
plug
cutter.
that
That's
in.
right.
Okay,
That's an
Canvas
oldie.
cutter.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
throwback. I'll tell it again some other time.
Have I seen stuff like twice in my life? I've seen things in the air that I couldn't make sense out of, but they were not like
Aliens?
Aliens, right? I
I'm
mean,
sure.
I guess like you want to go full weird conspiracy theory, you could say, sure, that was weird. There's a great book that was written a long time ago about the CEO of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, right? That's the organization that made the Blackbird and some other cool stuff. And there's a section there about aliens and UFOs and stuff. And a lot of times when you're flying around doing weird things fast or at night or whatever, people catch a glimpse and they're going to go, what was that? And there was a program that when the Blackbird was being made, they were actually ripping it around the Western US. And in the book, it talks about like how fast it was going was unlike anything that the planet had ever seen. Cause it was the first one that ever went that fast and was that loud and that color and that shape. I mean, you guys probably saw the Rose Bowl. Like when the B-2 flies over, it looks like Darth Vader's ship, right? So imagine if that wasn't at a football flyover, it was just like a really classified thing. And then you're looking up in the sky and you're like, whoa, what is that exactly? So yeah, twice I've like been stopped in my tracks and just looked at something like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But did I think it was from another planet? No.
Do you think aliens exist?
I think like mathematically, it doesn't make sense to me that there are that many planets out there and that many stars, and like we're the only thing that carved out an existence. That for me is a little bit tough. I have no definitive answers. My wife got mad at me one time because I said like, hey, if they figure out this space thing and they're looking for people to like volunteer to go to Mars or whatever, I'm like, man.
Really?
Oh, in a
You
heartbeat.
go.
Heartbeat.
No way.
Sitting on a rocket and getting shot like a bajillion miles an hour to go to a planet that nobody else has been. Yeah, dude, sign me up. I'm in.
No kidding.
Yeah, she's
I
not
wonder
happy.
what that is in you. What is that?
Maybe the same thing that got me into hunting
Like
when I had no
adventures or
idea.
chasing
He loves
adventure.
adventure.
I guess, man. I love a challenge. I love the adventure.
That sounds like a hunter.
Yeah.
Definitely sounds like a hunter.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a hard no on that. I'm not going to Mars. You, Brady? Brady, go to Mars.
I'd go.
What if there's like some species of ibex up there that nobody's ever seen before? It's got like 27-foot antlers. Like,
27.
Yeah. It was,
not bring it
I
back
wasn't
when we-
with
when
you
we
at all
Euro
until
met.
you
Yeah,
said
not true.
27 foot.
Trails into
And
it.
then my eyes got big. And I
Nah,
was
Trail's
like,
like, all right,
maybe.
I'll bring my bow. Like, it'll be
yeah,
fine.
maybe. Yeah, that's wild. What got you into hunting?
This guy.
Like-
I grew up, we didn't know each other growing up, but we grew up in Southern California. There are not a lot of Western big game hunters or at least in the circles I ran in Southern
We
California.
grew up like 15 minutes from each other. Didn't know each other.
Yeah, it's totally ironic. But I grew up like
You guys
shooting.
didn't surf together?
Did you surf?
No, we went to the same.
Sponger or a surfer? Yeah, I was gonna say let's clarify. here.
Both.
Did you surf?
He was a lifeguard. He was a collegiate water polo. He's so he brings up water. He feels like he's superior to me. Look at this wingspan, dude. How tall are you? 6 foot,
Like 6'2".
6'2", and look at give him the wingspan.
I didn't know you could be a pilot.
Look at
Oh, yeah, you do have long
some
arms.
long arms.
long ass.
Yeah,
arms.
Can
we
you
should,
dunk?
We should hoop.
Did you ever dunk?
He's not
I haven't
athletic
tried in a
enough
while,
for
but I
that. He's
could.
not
Yeah.
I remember actually that day where I can dunk in the warehouse. That was a GOHUNT video for a while.
If I was 6'2", I could definitely dunk.
Yeah, Porter likes to foul a lot when he plays basketball.
Yeah.
But he does.
He does.
He's
I played with Porter a lot.
he's good at fouling.
Old man ball.
A lot of fouling.
It's
And then a lot of jaw jacking. But no, so a Porter guy. I grew up like shooting. So I was around guns from a young age, like competition shooting, and we used to reload. So like I'm extremely envious of like the precision reloading.
Yep.
We used to reload for mass, right? So it was like 9mm rounds or 45 rounds, and you just try to crank out as many as you could. Nobody ever talked about a chronometer or
Weighing things
loads.
out to the
No.
exact measurements. Yeah,
I have
it's
two
a big thing.
brothers, so going to the range with 3 boys and a dad was like, that's a 2,000 round day. When
God.
you're just like out there. So familiar with that aspect of it, or at least like the firearm stuff, but never really got into hunting. And then Porter.
Did it ever occur to you? Like, you ever thought about it?
I
Growing
did.
up?
I
did.
did,
You know
for
anybody that
sure.
hunted?
But it just kind of seemed unattainable. Like if you don't have friends or a dad maybe that's into it, it's kind of a barrier to entry a little bit,
Yeah.
I think.
Of like just how to start.
Yeah, where do you even begin?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, and that was the first 3 years, even as an adult, where I was like, wait, applications? Like, what do you mean the season for elk in Utah is different than Colorado, which is different than New Mexico? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's the same species of animal, right? And so there's just a lot, right? And then you get busy and have a family and do all that stuff. When I got a little bit of free time, and Porter, I have known you since before you even worked here, right? And before this thing started. So to watch Porter kind of get into it from scratch, right? And he would talk about it from time to time, and he'd be like, "Hey man, I'm going elk." And I was like, "You have a gun? Like somebody put a gun in your hand? Like what do you? You have a
Yes, I
gun?
love when people roast
Did
Porter.
somebody make you do that?
Where do you shoot it?" No, and then obviously
Do you need a safe word, Porter?
I guarantee he was thinking, dude, if Porter can do it, I can do it.
That's not true. Maybe a little bit true. And so he, I started asking Chris questions, and he's like, "Dude, you should get into it, and like you should try it and come up." And it started pretty innocuously. It was like your scouting trip. Like he pulled a great Nevada tag, right? I was too ignorant to even understand that opportunity, right? And then you were like, "Hey man, this is a big deal, and I want to be going up and scouting a lot." And I was like, "Sounds good." He's like, "Well, you should come up with me." And of course I see a 370-inch bull for like, I think that's just like Tuesday, right? I'm like, oh,
They're in
cool.
their summer pattern, mid-August. We see elk. It was a good unit. We
Yeah,
see elk
everywhere.
everywhere. It was a fun.
That is fun.
2 days and we see 100 head.
Yep. And then the only opportunity I had, so then I was like, all right, I'm into it. I'm like this, I want to do it. And so I set a goal. I was like, I want to kill a bull elk, and definitely want to do
Not a
it.
mule deer, huh?
No, we'll get to that. He gave me a lot of grief about that. I know I'm in front of mule deer Jesus right now, but it was like
That's why I brought it up. I just
Yeah, I know.
saying
I was
it's Halo.
I was-
from where I'm sitting, like you're literally the halo.
He's glowing,
is the,
right?
I do
like,
a mule deer
great
behind me,
trophy.
you're right,
We
yeah.
need to ask them, would you rather, in a minute.
Yeah.
So my first hang up was I don't want to kill something just to kill it. I want to eat the meat, right? So like I'm going to bring the meat home. It's not necessarily about providing for my family for the year, but I'm not going to be, flippant with that, right? And so then you had some elk or whatever, and I had had deer before. I had venison in restaurants and at friends' houses and stuff like that, but hadn't really had a chance to like cook elk. And when I tasted it, I was like, dude, this is good.
The elk I ended up killing that scouting
That's right, yeah.
trip.
That's right.
I harvested that November. I gave you some of that meat.
So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna set the goal. Let's go kill a bull, and that's still kind of the goal. So for the 4 seasons I've been able to do it, I didn't have any points, didn't have any really, like of course apply for all the lottery states and still striking out thus far, and then did an over the counter spike hunt in
What was
Utah.
the process of punting that? How did you do that?
It was a lot of Chris kind of guided me through the process, but so I get an insider account and I'm trying to understand filtering and understand like pick a species, pick a state. I definitely narrowed the scope to Nevada initially, where I was just like, hey man, I live here. It seemed a little bit daunting to go like, hey, let's go learn all the different rules and all the different application timelines for all the different states. And Chris was like, dude, you can be in the game in Nevada. Like it's a lottery. And, he's explaining to me how that works. I was like, okay, cool. They'll buy my raffle ticket and let's rock and roll. And then struck out. And I think the first year I applied, got nothing. And I was pretty bummed out. I was like, well, sweet. I got
He
to
had
wait.
0 points. He's like, dude, this is brutal. I'm like,
No, it wasn't
man,
that. It wasn't that. It
I
was,
tried.
yeah, that's right. Well, I guess this is over.
Is it for me?
No, it was actually, we were at your house in your kitchen and you showed me how to use like the draw odds. And it was like, you had given me a few like, units to focus on for elk in this state. And it was like, dude, okay, 5 points, 6 points, 8 points, 10 points. And the percentages were so low. I was like, this is a freaking joke. I was like, dude, I'm going to be 95 years old before I get a chance to go hunting.
Right.
And, Chris is like, breathe through your nose, relax. Like there's more than that out there.
Yeah.
And so that kind of slowly built. And then I saw there was an over-the-counter spike hunt in Utah that was possible. And we have a mutual friend that's got a place up there near that unit. So it was like, all right, man, I'm going to go try it, like spike hunt, and that'll be that. And then I just got lucky that first year was like a late rut. And we walk in the woods, and from the second, you step out of the truck, it was just like a bugle fest. It was like walking into dinosaurs everywhere, just screaming their faces off. So again, I see 370-inch bull with Porter. First time I ever go glass, and first time I ever have a tag in my pocket. I walk in the woods. I'm like, this is awesome. So then, struck out, didn't kill. But I remember, texting Porter. You had a couple hunts that year, so you didn't go. So I had other guys to go with, and that was it was baby steps, go hunt maps. Never went to any sort of competitor software out there. I've only ever been a go hunt guy. So, downloading offline maps and trying to navigate my way around there. Came home with nothing, but I was for sure hooked. And, I remember calling Chris or texting Chris and going like, dude, struck out, total loss. And Chris was like, dude, you don't understand how much you just learned like this year, which in hindsight, you were totally right. But the competitive side of me was like, tried, failed. Now I'm definitely all in. So I'm not stopping. And then
What do you think was like what's been the most challenging? Like what's the hardest part of getting into hunting? Like as an adult, I've got a brother that's doing it right now. And like similar to you, he leans on, me and my other brother that we've hunted most of our whole life. So he asks questions, gear, all that stuff. But like for you personally, like what was the most challenging? Is it getting the permit? Is it what do you think it is?
That's a good question. I think that the most challenging thing was feeling like there was always something I was going to screw up, right? Like I didn't know anything about watching your wind. I'm rifle hunting. I'm not bow hunting. Do I even need to worry about my wind? I was pretty much running YouTube dry, trying to think of, trying to watch every movie, every how-to I could. I'm probably annoying Porter, asking him all the questions that I could do. But that first year in the woods, I remember we were sitting up on a bluff and we're looking down into like some thick timber, and there was a lot of elk in there. And it was very ruddy. And I had a spike tag in my pocket, and I hadn't read anything and I didn't have anybody to ask, but it was clear to me after like day 3 where like the herd bulls were just running the little teenagers off that I'm like, dude, how am I going to like the teenagers want to get like the young spikes want to be around the cows, but like obviously the old bulls don't want them around. So they run them off. And I remember thinking like, dude, there's a herd of like 100 elk down there. The only thing I can kill is this spike, and it's running that way. There's zero chance I'm going to go get it. Like, do I just send a round at like 1,000 yards here and like hope for the best or what? Obviously I didn't. And then on that same bluff, this guy just kind of there's another hunter that just kind of walks up and we start chatting with him or whatever. And he's like, hey, so what are you guys hunting or whatever? This guy's by himself. And then he's just like, all right, see you guys. And he just, drops off the knob and he starts like walking towards the herd. And I was like, he's going to go into the timber? And I remember at that moment, I was like, dude, there's so much I don't understand right now.
Right.
Like there's just from where to be, how to get the animal, how to stalk them. So, without being disappointed, I was like, dude, there's a lot to sink your teeth in this thing, which for me was really interesting and challenging. And I'm like, again, spoiled rotten, got a good friend that, runs a hunting company and, have the ability to go hunt antelope with Brady, with somebody else's tag this year. And then saw you and little things like how to pick out a bull elk out of that herd. Like I took into the woods this year. So every year is just a little, as you guys know, right? You get a little bit better at some things.
I remember you being stressed about the 2 big things I remember you being super stressed in those early years. Like this is 2020, 2021 was how the heck do I get a permit?
Yeah.
Which we figured that out. And then, okay, I get one down. Now what? Because I remember you being, you and Zach were like, you just didn't want to waste any of the meat. You didn't want to screw anything up because that's obviously would feel pretty shitty. So how many YouTube videos did you watch of ours or Randy's?
Newberg's gutless method is probably like in my top 5 YouTube videos of all time. Like I was just like, all right,
You're all the views on that video.
all of it, all of it.
Freak. Just kidding.
Well, and I remember you blew my mind. I was asking Chris things like, dude, how many hours can you hang like meat in the tree? Like if it's in a game bag, like is it good? Is it gonna spoil? Like how long before you got like your elk to the processor or whatever, and you're just like, dude, breathe through your nose, like it's gonna be fine. I was like, dude, so everything, and obviously presumptuous to even worry about how you're gonna take care of meat when I can't even like get a spike in the scope. So
you killed a spike in 21.
Yeah, so the next year went back, same unit, same over the counter tag, struck out on the other apps. Way more deliberate approach to applying that year. You got me into
This is 2021.
So 20 was the first one. 21 was the second year where I did kill. Couldn't really like. I was basically leaning on Chris saying like, "Hey, are you going on Colorado hunt? Or can we hunt together?" And I'm sure Chris in his head was like, "Dude, this guy's my buddy, but like, I don't need you banging around. I don't need you banging around the woods, making a bunch of noise."
You are not a liability at all. You bring value. I'm telling you, you do.
Appreciate that.
You pick up animals. Ask Nate, little Nate. He's here in the office, or Big Nate.
Big Nate.
Little Nate is
the camera guy.
The camera guy who's
There's a
technically
littler
bigger.
Nate than Nate?
Bigger, yeah.
Little Nate, the camera guy's littler than Nate?
No, that's why it's confusing. They were both called Nate. There's 4 people on a hunt in Colorado.
Yeah, 2 Nates.
And it was driving me nuts. I started calling him Nick, and he's like, "Dude, his name's Nate." I'm like,
It was getting a little weird.
You're calling the camera guy Nick?
Yeah, so then we came up with Big Nate, Little Nate. Big Nate is littler, but he's older, so we called him Big Nate.
Big Nate and Little Nate.
Yeah. So Big Nate's here, actually. Did you see him?
No.
He's in the office.
He's in here.
Yeah.
He's Brady's
He's staying at my
roommate.
house.
He's wintering here. He's
Yep.
like a snowbird. Because his Wyoming house isn't done.
Yes,
so
that's
he's
right.
wintering with here in
I'm excited. I'm gonna go say hey.
Yeah. Something you said I thought was interesting is like you just didn't know. You said like, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing," right?
Yeah.
So I've hunted forever, but like I went on this hunt in Colorado this last year, this archery elk hunt, and I killed a bull, and I'm in the process of packing it out a long ways, and I'm walking up and down the trail, in and out packing meat, and I'm running into people like on the trail, and everybody I talk to, I'd be like, "Oh, have you hunted here before?" You get some yes, some no. How long you been hunting? And I would say there were probably 12 vehicles at the trailhead, and I probably talked to, I don't know, at least that many people, right? Because there was, multiple people in a vehicle. And I would bet you 90% of them within the first minute would be like, I'm seeing elk. I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like all of them, everybody. And I don't know. I'm curious as to like what you think people could do. What could we do like as a company to help shorten that gap? Because they would ask me, how'd you kill that bull? I don't know, man. I watched the wind. I watched where he was at. I snuck up on him when I shot him, and it's like, I'm saying that, but I'm sure within that, there's probably a billion other little decisions that I made that I wouldn't even think to relay.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think you guys, for the most part, not pandering to my audience or anything, you guys are doing it. Like you are making it less daunting, right? I would say that for me, I don't know if this is going to resonate with other new hunters or not, but there were like, it's almost like going to school. There were certain like must do early, right? You got to get your gear. You got to decide how you're going to get a tag. Are you going to is it going to be a backpack hunt, or are you just going to like trail hunt or whatever? And so there's the logistical aspect of just getting the opportunity and then getting the gear ready to go, right? And that was wildly doable. Your gear dumps, the whys behind your first aid kits, like even the simple, like the caliber of weapon that you guys are taking into the field, that all was like wildly helpful the whole time. The actual in the field hunting stuff, I think I would bucket into like the definite do nots, right? It was like the prohibited things for sure, don't do it. And obviously with filming and stuff like that, it's different than when you talk to somebody, because you only get a snapshot of what's actually happening, right? And so those moments of disappointment or challenge, right? I remember watching, I think you and Lorenzo's deer hunt where you put that ridiculous stock in the high country. And
it looped all around that buck in the ab shoots and came down on him. And
I remember that video has like a scene where I think it's from Lorenzo's perspective looking across the canyon at how far you had stalked.
Yeah.
And I remember being dumbfounded about the way you guys talked about putting an animal to bed. Like, hey, man, we're just going to sit on them. They're going to go to bed. Then we'll put a stalk on them later. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That animal's going to sit there, like literally, like all day.
I got an F-16 right here. I'll be there. Yeah. I'll be there in a second.
And then Brady, like, doos around like, an 11,000 foot cliff. And I was like, okay, animal's literally going to sit there.
Yeah.
So as dumb as that sounds, it's like having not been in the woods, having not patterned animals.
Animal behavior.
Which is, he likes to give me grief about not being into mule deer, but it's like, dude, I'm just trying to get my brain around elk first, right? And then there's some things that are corollaries, obviously, but like I can't also go learn a new species right now and how they water and what their food source is and what their travel plans look like and things like that. So long answer to your short question, Trail, but I think it was like, for me, it was like gear, tags, logistics. And then after that, it was like, okay, I know I'm going to bump an animal when I'm not supposed to. That's just going to be part of the learning curve. What are the for sure don'ts? Like, don't screw it up. And maybe that would be my one suggestion is like, hey, here's the top 3 easiest ways to screw it up.
Gotcha.
Because I had to kind of infer that when I was first learning from you guys.
I like that. I think that's applicable, and I think it makes a ton of sense because a lot of it is just a lot of it's animal behavior. I mean, I did a podcast on my own here not too long ago. And I talked about I've killed a lot of elk. I'm not a good caller.
Bragging.
Tons. So many I can't even count. But a lot of them I've killed just via anticipation, knowing where that animal was most likely to be and when. Yep. And I think a lot of that is just ecology. Why are they there? Where are they going to be? Where are they most likely to go? Yep. And so, yeah, that's good intel.
I love him getting into it because him and Zach, I hit him up for feedback all the time because what we've realized is we're trying to grow our business and continue to evolve is, you guys, Brandon, Lorenzo, were here really pretty much from the beginning as true SME experts. And so we came, from a really draw odds heavy technical perspective and solve those problems because they needed to be solved. But with our filtering tool and all this, we've really built a tool that's really incredible for new hunters, but it's still a little too technical and we gotta make some tweaks. So like where he still gets hiccups or confusion is really helpful. And like, people talk about, because tags are getting cut and all this stuff, and a lot of it's winter kill and these things. But I mean, the number of hunters is not necessarily
growing exponentially, we have to have new hunter recruitment, right? We want this guy to come into our industry, have a good experience, buy tags, support conservation, and then he's going to raise his kid. And then this is how we continue to build. Otherwise, we have this generation of let's call it 40-year-olds or whatever. And if we don't have new hunter recruitment, they're going to die off and there'll be no hunters and we're definitely going to lose our rights. Like we have to think long-term, especially with all this stuff that we're talking about at the beginning of the podcast. Like this is like kind of the mission of GOHUNT, right? We have to like, there's such a big barrier to entry, right? I was the same way, except I was spoiled because I was exposed to you guys when we started GOHUNT, but like, it is so intimidating getting in. There's so much you have to learn.
There is.
From the tag to the weapon to how to harvest an animal to then take care of the animal. It's intimidating. We want to reduce that barrier to welcome people. It's still going to be difficult. It's still going to be a challenge.
Because like even the other day I mentioned to you, I got an email from a guy, and we were talking about like new hunters. He's like, I saw you released the 2024 application deadline article. He's like, what are deadlines?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't understand the deadline thing.
I want that guy's life.
Yeah.
Brady,
I don't even know what a deadline is.
Because maybe he's from somewhere else.
I'm
where
so chill.
he just,
He doesn't even know what the word deadline
I
means.
don't even know what a deadline is.
that's a good chill.
Deadlines, never heard of them.
But like he's probably, maybe one of those Midwest East Coast guys who just goes and buys a whitetail tag at a gas station. He doesn't understand. For the confusing part for him right away is what's a deadline? And it's like we all take that for granted. Like we know app deadlines are, from December to June. Like there's app deadlines all the way throughout there for every single state. But that was just the basic of basic.
Yep.
And it's like, I had to try to help him out, explain to it. And he's like, oh, wow, I didn't know we had to apply. I didn't know you have deadlines. You have an app period, open date, close date. Every state's different. Every species is different.
Yep.
And then for you trying to break all that stuff down.
I mean, it was like drinking from a fire hose. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta narrow it.
I remember in 2020, right, when he's like fully committed to doing this, I'm like, dude, buy a Wyoming point. It's like $40 for elk. The deadline is October. And he's like, dude, I got to learn so much before I go to Wyoming to kill an elk.
Yeah,
I'm like,
how am I gonna go to Wyoming?
I know, but it's $40.
But
I
in
promise you, it's
6
very,
years,
it's very good investment. Well, 3-4 years,
Yeah.
it depends on which tag, but like, and now how many points do you have? You didn't do it that year, but
Let me break out my point tracker.
you have like, but you have like 2 or 3.
I got 2. Yeah, a couple in Wyoming. I think I have the most in Utah.
He's starting to build up. It starts to.
Well, Trail said this on your deer hunt last year. Actually, Trail. You were asking me like where I went hunting. The first and only bull elk tag I've had was an over the counter Colorado tag. I won't say the unit, Brady, because it's over the counter, right? We don't want to blow it up, right?
Brady on blast.
Yeah.
For the people, I think that's what Lorenzo said.
Well, Lorenzo's
He's
not here right now.
I have to represent.
You are in a seat. You are in a seat right now.
And I was all stoked because I was using GoHunt. I was using filter, and I was like, oh, with 1 point, this is 100% draw odds. And then I'm not looking for. I actually think it would be wrong to be this new to it and have some unrealistic expectation of like a 350-inch bull, right? Like if I've not killed a bull elk yet, I'm very much looking forward to another opportunity. But if I killed a 275-inch bull, I'd be doing cartwheels down the mountain, right? Like I'd be super stoked to just have completed that goal. So I'm telling Trail where I went, and it was 100% draws, and Trail's like, you could just like go over the counter and get a point. I was like, what? What'd you say?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, you could just like waited 2 weeks and gone back, and then you have a point to kind of be in the game for later. I was like, that never even dawned on me. And the whole drive up and back to Brian Head this last weekend was that conversation was, dude, what we got to build points to have an opportunity, and we use the over the counter maybe in the short term to become a better hunter, to learn how to do this more effectively. And then when you're in the game with 5, 6, 8 points down the road, then target that unit where you can maybe put those skills to good use.
It's a good strategy. It's going forward now.
I want to ask you more about that, but I got another question I want to ask you first.
When do I get to fire some? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Yeah.
Chris kind of brought it up and alluded to it, but are your kids into it?
Yeah. So my 11-year-old this year put my pack on right before we left for Colorado on Chris's hunt. I was weighing my pack and wanted to see everything. And my son probably weighs 65 pounds soaking wet, and I think my pack was like 50 some odd pounds. And he strapped it on. He was like, Dad, if I carry this, can I come? So like he's way into it.
So he's into it.
He's turning 12 this year. He was doing his hunter's education like in the car on the way back from this weekend's trip. So like he's in. Now he's also, you know, as new as you can possibly be. So he's like, Dad, so youth hunter, I'll be able to hunt this year, right?
Yeah.
And he's turning 12. He's turning
He
12.
might be able to draw tags.
That's what I mean. I had to like manage his expectations a little bit, but I have a few cow points in Utah, and we're looking for. I think it'll be a fun hunt to get him really into it. Is like going a cow hunt with him in Utah. He loves going to the range. He was banging steel at like 500 yards, and
So he's into it. You're into it.
oh yeah,
There's kind of an undercurrent, like a little bit of a movement, just like that we don't need new hunters. Like that generally, like we've got enough hunters. It's too hard to draw a tag. It's too hard to get a tag. I was just curious as to like, what do you think about that? Like, what does it mean to you? And to you and your kid that you're bringing up?
I actually was going to ask you guys a similar question where it's like, how do you guys as seasoned hunters feel about a bunch of rookies like showing up in the unit, right? Are we putting more pressure on the animals? Are we making it harder to get tags and stuff like that? From our perspective, like I love it. I love the challenge of it. I love being outside. I want my kids to be outside. I want them to, you know, have to face a little adversity and then overcome it. I don't like the idea of them just getting handed something easy. And so there's so many good lessons to be learned about how to do this correctly. He loves steak. He loves elk. Like, you know, I remember.
Man, kids love steak. Your kids eat like elk steak?
Dude, I can't get the kid to eat like a chicken breast to save his
mine
life,
either.
but he will crush
Mine
steak.
too.
Like, crush it.
They will
So,
flat eat steaks.
yeah.
They do like it. Bennett always talks about.
Yeah.
The spike I killed, I was like deliberate with what I fed the fam the first time with it. So I found some recipe for like sloppy joes. So I took the hamburger meat and made like sloppy joes out of it, and then put like crescent rolls in the oven. So I put sloppy joes inside the crescent rolls, and then just gave them that. My kids crushed like a dozen of them. So good. He's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Dude, you guys are eating elk," and he's like, "I'm in." So
Yeah.
so he's into it. I think there is a like, it's almost, I don't want to call it, it's not country club atmosphere, but you know how when you're like entering into something completely new, you might be overanalyzing like the people that are really good at it. So like hunters in every personal experience I've had are like insanely friendly. Like I remember you and I met some guy that turned out to be an outfitter in Nevada when we were scouting for your deer hunt.
Oh, my deer hunt. Yeah, that guy was super nice.
He was unbelievable. And you were, I mean, obviously you're like the mayor, like you're always up to everybody. Like, how's it going? Or we can stop at a gas station in the middle of nowhere, but you're like, hey, you guys like living here? Like, what's the climate like over here?
Those guys in Rachel, Nevada, they were very nice.
Porter's a talker. So I thought you were just kind of doing that, and then it's just genuine, right? And they're out there. So I think Bennett's too young to really understand any of that dynamic yet. So I'm hoping.
You feel welcome, though. Like, you think our industry's like, you feel like welcome. You don't feel like they're elite and not.
Totally. I might not be the best person to ask that to, because obviously I have this like crazy inroad, right? Like I shouldn't be at this table with you guys, but I have never felt like I didn't belong here, didn't deserve to be here, or any of that stuff. It's been super.
Think about
welcoming.
your interaction on your archery. That was a OTC, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to break Brady's rules, but it was in the. Can we talk about the state and the weapon?
It was in Colorado.
You can do
Colorado.
It was
and
above.
it was archery.
US.
Elk tag.
Yeah, I think I said I caught one in Colorado, so I think we're okay to say it.
So, but like you talked about, you ran into a lot of people.
A lot of
from,
people.
like, Ohio and
All over.
all over,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. All
and
over
they
the
were
place.
getting their butts kicked. I worry that they hopefully have at least a good enough experience that they want to come back.
Oh,
But what's a non-resident Colorado elk tag?
746, I think,
So
is at Cabell's. when I bought it.
$750, and you ran into 12 of those. Do we know if any of those 12 people
I don't know.
harvested?
No,
We don't think, right?
I don't know. I don't think.
We don't think. Okay, but think so. That's a lot of revenue to the agency that can go to really good use. I mean, newer hunters, especially when they're into archery, which is great. Like, let's be honest, harvest success is pretty low, and that's a lot of revenue that the state needs.
Yeah,
I mean,
like I asked a question and you asked a question in return. I didn't want to skip over it. I always try to return, you know, when somebody asks a question. And I'll let you guys speak for yourselves. But and I said it ad nauseum. I'm all in favor of more people pursuing the lifestyle and the opportunity to hunt. And I think it's so cool. I mean, you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. Like I
True.
wouldn't have met you
Yeah.
without hunting. I mean, we met you in, Porter's hunting camp and we got to know each other. And I consider you a friend at this point. And what a cool opportunity to sit and talk to you about, flying F-16s and shit. I would never have this conversation, right, without it. And I'm not saying that like you don't meet people, outside of, certainly you meet people outside of hunting, but it is like a commonality that we share. And like, I'm all for that. And I'm all for bringing those types of people that are looking for those experiences. And I know what they will mean. I know I've talked to you. I know you loved it, you know? So I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool. I've had my time. I've hunted, I've done my thing. I'm going to keep doing my thing. It's not like I'm not going to find avenues to go hunting myself because I love it and get my kids into it and really anybody that can help. But I think it's awesome. I think there's plenty of opportunities. And if draw odds get a little bit harder in a state like Nevada because you're applying and I'm applying now, I don't care. If you draw the tag, I'm pumped for you. Yeah. And that's genuine. And I don't know if everybody shares that. And I certainly see the other side of it, like, hey, I've been waiting all these years and my draw odds are still less than 10% or 5% or whatever it is. Like, I get it. But man, I would always pound home, like, somebody got the tag. Somebody's out there. You know what I mean? Somebody's having the experience.
Yeah. So if someone has 20 points in the state, like a new hunter's not really affecting their draw as much at all, is it? Right? Like, they are random a little bit.
Yeah, states that offer a random permit, like in a state like Nevada, the number of bonus points you have squared gives you that much better chances. But if you've got a whole bunch of people at that 0 to 1 point level, they're still in the draw and they're available to that. But and it can. But the point that I would make is like there's. Your classic example, like you're from Nevada, you could have just applied in Nevada and not drawn the permits that you applied for, but you didn't. You looked at filtering, you looked at application strategy articles, I assume, use the platform, and you looked at it and you're like, oh, I can buy an over-the-counter spike elk tag in Utah. There's a lot of people that would look at that and be like, I don't want to go up and hunt spikes, but it is an opportunity, and you went and you had good hunts, right?
You guys would probably laugh at me if you saw the pictures of me walking up on that spike. Like
and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's some Boone and Crockett
everyone
records.
wants.
I was like,
cool.
That's
you keep
amazing.
saying you haven't killed a bull elk, but you killed a bull elk.
yeah.
I
It was a baby bull.
That's
Baby
a bull
bull.
elk.
Yeah.
That is a bull.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a bull elk. So anyway, I think it's awesome. I think it's super cool that you're.
What do you think?
I would 100% agree with Trail. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. And I know a lot of people like to poke fun at residents, non-residents, going to other states, but like you are chasing an opportunity and experience, and you went outside your state and experienced that and had a great time. You learning those experiences, you'll take that to Nevada whenever you draw a tag there. Yeah, I wish, like, I live in Nevada. I wish we could give out more non-resident tags, but we just don't have the habitat. We have the weather, all that stuff, drought, like. Certain states have more tags because they have a little bit of wildlife population. I wish we could give out more tags.
Yeah.
And I want people to chase the adventures that I've had. That's why I always keep talking about my family in Minnesota. Like, classic example, they all want to come out west and hunt elk. It's like, I want them to experience what I have seen. Like, they don't get that every single day, but they should be able to travel out there, have a good time, have some experiences, and pass it on to, their family, their friends, and everyone should be able to do this.
Yeah.
And I welcome that. I really do. Like Trail said, like, deep down, I want people to do it. And if I have to wait a little bit, I am okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to see the perpetuity of the tradition of the sport, of the pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
The history of mankind is built on the back of hunting.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see that continue. So
Well, you guys have.
it doesn't continue unless you're taking your kid and your kid takes his kid. And if those opportunities are not available, then that stops.
Yeah.
So
We're losing rights in every state. Like if we don't have things like this,
Yeah.
when we're 80, we're gonna be like, man. Remember when we were 30 and 40 and crushing animals, man? We should have taken.
man, you remember when Porter was just crushing them?
We should have protected our rights more. But I get the resident non-resident thing because it affects tags so much, and I feel like we've taken it too far though. Like, we're all Americans, we're all paying federal taxes. Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, the only thing you really feel like you see people being like really proud of the state is around hunting. I feel like.
Can I offer you one perspective on that?
Unless
Like
you're from Texas.
And that's true.
That's
People
true.
they love Texas.
They
but,
love
like,
Texas.
Dude, we're Americans. Like, we act like we're like from different countries.
I mean,
and we're like
nobody
fighting over tags.
Nobody bleeds red, white, and blue like me. Like my
You're
viewpoints.
yeah.
I
You're a proud
am an
American.
American. I am an unapologetic American. But I will say, as a new guy getting into it later in life, I actually appreciate two things. I appreciate a little bit of a barrier to entry because I don't want it to be like frivolous, right? Like I don't want anybody to be able to just go. I haven't thought this comment through, but like if my 11-year-old could just like decide he wants to go buy a tag at the gas station, and then we go in and we're just spraying rounds in the woods, like I don't think that's a good plan, right? So there's maybe that's one end of the spectrum, and then on the other side, when you have kind of gotten your education, you've put some hours in, you put some time in. I don't mind the like state resident preferential stuff because it makes it easier to do, right? Again,
you should be able to. You're a resident of that state.
Yeah,
right?
like that. I remember, same sort of like PTSD when I was looking at filtering in Utah because I was, all in on Utah, and that was like where I started garnering the most points. And I started looking at some of the big elk units in Utah, and I was like, dude, I could have 22 points, and it's like maybe a coin flip for me to get this tag. That would, I think, discourage some people. If it was in your own state, it's just so hard to get a tag for so many years. They're going to be like, dude, I just really like camping with a rifle. You know what I mean? Like, there's no chance like I'm going to bring anything out of the woods. So maybe two ends, and that's probably just describing the bookends there. But
yeah, no, you want a mix. You want it needs to be inviting enough to where people want to get into the system and buy points, and it keeps the whole circle going.
But point being is it's doable.
It's totally doable.
Like you did it.
It's totally doable. And
How did you find the product as far as every state does everything different? Right. I mean, every state's draw system. Some states don't have over-the-counter opportunities. Some do. Like, how did you find the product as a whole? Like using the product, do you feel like it's pretty self-explanatory? Was it still hard? And like, what individual parts and pieces of the Insider platform do you think are like the most helpful for a new hunter?
Okay, I'll take that piece by piece. I think it would be wrong for me to say like where Insider and where the app is now is the same as when I started, because you guys have done so much development on it that it's not, even from like the rookie's perspective, it's not the same thing, right? So like I said, I focused on Nevada initially, and I was trying to learn that, hey, yes, it's a you can take your points squared, and trying to do some high level math here to like figure out, do I do a group application, do I just do a single, or so that what I struggle with, what the app was great for, and what the website and the Insider was great for, is like literally, it's about as user friendly as you can get. It's like pick a species, pick a state, and then pick a season, and then off we go. I found myself even recently, gave this feedback to Porter, I think over the weekend. I'm like, as a new guy who's trying, to manage work, family, learning this new thing, time seems to be a really important commodity. It would be, I found myself struggling a little bit to make sure that like, hey, the family calendar is only going to let me go hunting for 10 days this year, or 15 or 20 days, whatever it is. It'd be sick if I could just put that date range in and then pick a state, and then it just pop out the options for species.
States,
or something. And then if you can go beyond one state to, hey man, you could go spring bear hunting in Montana, or you could do this or whatever. That would be cool, because it would help focus the effort. Now, I was lucky in that, like, maybe lucky, ignorant. I had made up my mind that elk was what I wanted to go hunt. And
You hear that, Brady?
I do.
Just wanted to,
Yeah.
I want to make sure
beautiful.
that
Dude,
was.
they're dinosaurs, man.
Would
They're
you
like
rather
amazing
shoot a 6-point mature like 320 bull or a 195-inch trashy mule deer?
It'll take about a half a second for me to decide, and I would smoke that mature bull.
What?
And I would all day.
And that's coming from a guy that's top 3 in his field. in the world.
In a completely unrelated,
In the
irrelevant
world.
field.
Are unrelated, but we're
Colorado
establishing
deer hunt.
Yeah.
We're glassing up great deer all over the place. Some on private, some on public, but we are glassing up good bucks, right? This guy's over there glassing up. Is that a legal bull? That's a legal bull. Oh my god! And he's
Just so
going
excited
nuts.
about
And
the
I'm
bulls.
like, bro, there's a 190-inch straight typical right here, 240 yards away on private, just staring at you, rutting his face off, and he's over there glassing up.
I would have had blinders on those elk the whole time. Just like, whoop, mule deer, mule deer, mule deer.
Yeah, him and Trail. Oh, is that the legal bull? That's in the back. He's about to feed out in front of the tree. I'm like, guys, we're deer hunting.
We're deer hunting over here. Hey guys, come
We're
back.
like, he's on public.
If we had a tag, we could smoke him.
Filtering was awesome. I used that a lot to answer your question, Trail.
Yeah.
And then it was state unit specific. And then when I thought I got to a point where for Nevada specifically, right, you can put in multiple choices for units. I'd run those by Chris and I go, hey, what do you think about these? And then Chris would point me back to the platform to say like, hey man, you go read, like stop looking at just the shiny pictures and go read. What's the terrain like? What's the water like? What's the access like? So I would say as my research kind of matured a little bit, it was like, okay, so now, you know, there's good road access here. Cause I didn't do any backcountry hunting for the first couple of years. And then last year was the first like Colorado backcountry, which was like a whole new challenge for me. It was like
2022.
Sorry, 2022. Yeah. I forgot we're
He
24.
went on a legit. They drew first rifle tags. Him and Zach with like what 0 points?
Yeah, 0 points
Yeah.
or 1 point, I think. No, 0
I think it was
points.
0 points.
Yeah, 0 points. And so I would say from where I started, where it was just one species, one state, trying to figure out where to apply, to maybe 2022, where it was like, okay, I want a backcountry hunt in a state I've never been to before, read all the stuff that the platform had, and then it was onto the app, and then it was like e-scouting, dropping waypoints, running them by Porter, sharing those with Porter, and go like, hey, does this look like somewhere I might be able to find water? And you know, that unit was a haul from. This is while I was deployed too, so I was over in, you know, I was
Can you say where you were?
yeah, I was in Europe, and
No, like
He was in Europe.
like the language they speak, like the country.
yeah, I was in Germany, and
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
and it was, you know, I mean, it's the military. It's not the Four Seasons. So, you know, I'm living in I'm sleeping on a cot every night, and we're pretty busy at work. And there's this little guy called Putin doing some mean things. So to decompress when I would come home, I was like, I knew I had this tag in my pocket, and I was like, dude, I'm just all over the app, and I'm putting in, you know, waypoints and trying to do everything. So when I got home, you know, high five the fam and everything, and I think it was only like 3 or 4 days later
Do
that I was like,
do you fly your F-16 home?
not
don't.
that trip.
I was like, "Are you really still going elk hunting?" He's like, "Am I going elk hunting?" He's been gone 6 months, right?
Yeah.
4 kids at home. He's like, "Am I going elk hunting?"
I took the fam to the beach. We had a little family vacation, and like, you know, mom got to go to the spa and relax a little bit.
So this
and
is
then-
where like he's a new hunter, but not like he solo backpack scouted in August.
Yep.
Right around Labor Day or
Yep.
something.
Well, I had e-scouted. I had to go check out the.
He
had to go
leaves
check out
here
the
like
waypoints.
1 a.m, hikes through the night or whatever, or probably sunrise by the time you got there. But
Yeah, it was.
that was a very productive scouting trip.
Well, you set the model. It was the Nevada
The
yearbook.
it was a
that-
bonsai trip, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a very productive scouting trip.
was.
He came back.
And it was productive in a way that like I could cross things off the list, right? Because I
Right.
turned up like almost nothing. But yeah, to your point, it was, can you go find some stuff? And then got to go back up there with my buddy, and we found a good spot. We were on the elk, and we got there a couple days before the opener, and he ended up killing opening morning.
Oh, there's a couple parts about that story I'd like to highlight. So first of all, he had a
You're
very
a logistics king.
very good. He had a very good plan. He came back from the scouting trip and he was like deflated because he didn't see many elk. But he's telling a couple of the spots. I'm like, super productive. Crossed off. You didn't like that spot. You couldn't see. It was too thick. I'm like, that was very productive.
You
And
learn
he's
a
like,
lot
"Oh,
by what
okay."
you don't see.
Yeah, and so like he looked at 4 spots. One where he saw the elk, it was glassable, it was huntable. I'm like, boom, you got your number 1 spot. He's like, oh, this is great. Yeah. So then he's feeling better. But so our other buddy Zach wasn't able to get work off or whatever and scout. He's like leading the pack. There's a couple parts to this. So there's 4 of them total. They're all brand new hunters. One of them, like I see at the gym all the time. He's younger, Sammy Jr. Like he's in good shape. His guy can hang. He went to college in Montana. Like,
Aviators all the time.
he's
not a pilot?
Yes, no, he's not a pilot.
Yeah.
Not a pilot.
But like he can hang, and he had been in the showroom here getting gear from Paul and all that. Like he was into it. 4th buddy, his buddy from high school. I'm like, hey, is he training? Like they're going on a legit. They have 2 tags. It's a 5-day hunt, right? First rifle,
3
Colorado.
tags. Sean, Zach, and I,
yeah,
we all
3
had
tags.
tags.
And then
because that's not a lofty goal or anything.
Yeah,
Like walk
they-
into it over the like, you know, it'll be fine. This will be
It'll
fine.
be fine.
Brady, this will be fine.
And I'm like, does he have the gear? And he's like, I think so. I don't know. And so anyway, that gentleman who's his buddy, I don't want to put him too much on blast, but was definitely not prepared whatsoever. Anything to add there?
I think he was prepared. I don't think he was as prepared, but I would back him up a little bit and say like he also doesn't have the access that I do to you, right? And this is to maybe Trail's question about feeling deflated coming back from that scouting trip. I don't know what I don't know. So when I say, hey man, I put a lot of work into this like habitat and like where the water's going to be and where they might turn them up. And when you strike out, it's not trivial that like I have a buddy that I say that to, and then you instantly amp me back up. You're like, dude, relax. You just learned some things. You took that off the list. If your average hunter doesn't have that, right? And even we were hunting with Nate this year, Nate was telling me how responsive he is to all the people that ask questions about gear or about their hunts and stuff like that. If there's no feedback loop that for a new hunter, it's really easy to just go like, dude, I obviously suck at this, and this is not going to have.
What about training though?
So transition to training.
Okay, I like that's more what I meant. Like
he was
Horse
not.
cut out for this guy.
no,
Yeah, he does.
no. He's a very nice guy. I met him.
No,
once.
he's like my oldest.
Say
Like
his name.
literally, I was in kindergarten with this
Say his
guy.
name.
Like, yeah.
Where's he live? No, he's a very nice guy. He was not physically prepared.
I think
for
he
what
would be
you
the
guys were
first. If he was sitting here right now, he'd be the first to tell you he was not. He underestimated the physicality of the hunt, right? And we were camping at 10,000 plus feet. We weren't, I'm not bowing up or anything. We weren't doing insane hikes, but it was steep and it was a really, really thick unit. So there's something psychological about putting in a lot of miles in tough like matchstick forest when you also don't feel like you're covering any ground. You're like, I look up, I just see more trees, and
Can't
you're
feel
like,
claustrophobic.
The reason I bring it up is like when like picking a hunting partner or
it's
whatever, like
real.
he wasn't trying to hold you back or whatever, but I mean, you had put so much preparation to this. You were so jacked up. You thought about it the entire time you were in Germany. You got 5 days. You have only limited scouting days. I mean, it is like you got to maximize your time and. And
Porter's
so,
telling you trim fat. That's what he's saying. Just kidding.
yeah, that's right. You can
I
let
don't know
me
who
load a
this
little
guy
bit
is,
here.
but you're out.
no, but they had a great plan.
We
I
had
mean,
a
I
good
don't want
plan.
to steal the story, but you.
No, we got in there 2 days before the opener. We scouted that night. We bumped a nice 5 point with like 5 cows out of his bed on the way into camp. So we were feeling like, okay, there's a little bit of validation. And then we scouted a couple spots the next morning, felt good about them. And there were hunters everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And so we, opening morning, went to where we had left some elk the night before. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but when they bed down for the night, they're not likely to move.
That's a good tip.
Hey, pro
Hot
tip,
tip.
guys. Hey, hot tip.
Hot take.
You're welcome. And so then, we put Zach and our other buddy at one spot, and we were a few hundred yards away, but we had basically like different vantages into 2 different areas, right? There was like a upper alpine meadow with some thick timber, and then it's the morning of the opener, and a bunch of them ran in on us, and Zach, late in the morning of the opener, Zach got a broadside shot at a couple 100 yards and put one right through the pump house and dropped him. And, we were out of cell service and we had an inReach for like emergencies and stuff, but we weren't like texting, but I mean, we were close enough. I heard the gun go off, and then, so I'm like, dude, all right, let's pack up. But there was so much pressure that morning. I mean, I jokingly was telling Porter, I was like, it sounded like Fallujah. Like it was like, there was super, super calm. And then opening morning, it was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, everybody get down.
We're in the action.
Yeah, that's right. And then we packed them out, and then, I mean, we learned so much in that hunt. That was, like you said, it was a backpack hunt. Took care of the animal, got everything back to camp, 4 of us lugging it. We didn't cape it. It was, it was a bigger than my spike, but it was nothing that you would like, want to cape or anything like that.
So they kill opening morning, take care of the animal pretty much all of that day, right? But this is a classic. I would not call this a mistake. This is like a classic thing that like, it's a good question. I mean, even more experienced hunters like,
Yeah, can I ask them? Can I just ask them what they would do?
Yeah.
So we get back to camp. We take care. We hang the meat. Everything is good to go. But there's an evening hunt, so we go back out for the evening hunt. Don't turn anything up, and we come back into camp, and we're looking at the inReach, and there's like weather coming in. So this is our 3rd day in the back. We got enough food. We have at least another day or 2 of food, and we're sitting right next to water. So we have meat in the trees. We have 2 more tags for the crew.
4 days of hunting.
Yep,
left.
4 days of
One
the
day
season
down.
left. That's right. And we're, just a few miles from the truck at this point, and the weather forecast is like there's snow, like there's a storm coming in. I don't remember exactly how bad the forecast was, but it was like there's going to be 5 or 6 inches.
Yeah.
Our thought, well, I don't even want to spoil it by saying our thought process. Would that have changed your guys' calculus at all about backing out right then and relocating?
No.
Okay. Could you
Well-
tell the rookie why?
The other part too is weren't you guys were nervous about how long you could hang the meat?
Yeah.
I was nervous about the meat getting wet. So it was hung and it was up there and it's in its game bags or whatever. Of course, like, I'm copying all of your guys' game bag recommendations and like all that stuff. So I felt fine about it being there. It was getting below freezing at night, but then back above freezing during the day. So I was like, it wasn't cold enough where it was like going to turn into a block of ice and I'd feel good about it. So that was, our thought was like, well, dude, if it freezes and it thaws and it gets snowed on, we can't fully protect it. Do I put a tarp over it? Like, what do we do here?
Yeah. So me right there, I'm just thinking like I'm licking my chops knowing there's a storm coming in. I'm like, well, it's going to be really good hunting. Like I want to be out there.
Okay.
So I guess as long as the meat is underneath the tree and kind of like
North facing
yeah,
slope, shaded up,
potentially in the shade and all that, if it snows on, it's going to be
over
fine.
a creek helps.
Right, lows what? Probably high 20s.
Oh, you're golden.
High
It's
is
totally golden.
55.
I can give you an example. So I killed a bull in Colorado, archery hunt, right? So it's September. It's getting freezing at night. So when I get down into the creek where I put it over, I just suspended over a creek because I couldn't hang it in a tree. Getting freezing at night, layer of frost,
Okay.
not frozen hard, but layer of frost. Daytime highs probably 60s. I left that. It took me 3 days to pack it out and it was great.
It's
Just
fine.
totally fine.
Yeah. Totally
No
fine.
difference in your experience from like how it tasted or
Nope. Ate fine. As long
The
as
biggest lesson I've learned, you're downplaying. I mean, yeah, you were a couple miles, you were 3 or 4 miles, but it was a 5-6 hour hike. I mean, it was not some.
And if it's jack straw, I mean that sucks to hike through.
and we did, and we had to.
Well, it's-
it was 2 trips. It was at least 2 trips, right? To take everything out that we had. And this is another lesson. It was like we probably went in heavy, and so we didn't think we could get all the stuff in plus all the meat in one trip. So we're gonna shuttle. So then it was like, okay, the forecast is like snow's gonna hit later in the morning, and then in the evening it's just gonna get nuked. So should we just get up and hunt the morning, or should we just like haul the mail back to the truck and then get back here so that the meat? So it was very meat centric, the decision, so to speak. And we were concerned. In hindsight, it felt like a huge mistake.
Yeah, to me too. Like, if it's going to be a really nasty storm, and I know I can't hunt during that storm because let's say visibility is just 0, then I might use that as a time to either move camp or take the meat out because I can't hunt anyway.
Okay.
Instead of just being sitting in my camp, twiddling my fingers, like I might as well do something. So I might use that time, if it's only a couple miles, to then take it out, even though it's going to be miserable while you're hiking because it's going to be snowing, it's going to be hard, but like utilize that time that you can't hunt to then take the meat out if you're concerned about it. Otherwise, hunt that morning for sure because it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Be there ready to hunt after the storm. Because once the storm breaks, that's when the animals will start moving. They're going to have to feed. They're going to be bedded down during the storm. So like I like storms, but knowing what to do, again, it comes from experience and stuff like that. And knowing your meat's going to be fine, but using the
Storm coming in that night, you said? Just primarily that night?
I think when we were talking about this around the campfire, the forecast was like that night, but we went to bed and it was like, it wasn't there yet, but you could see like the winds are changing and the clouds are rolling in and that you can almost feel that cold air. And so,
So you got them packed it out the next morning?
yeah, we went back to the truck and then came back one more time.
It's definitely sketchy when you're up there and there's like a storm coming in.
Yeah.
I'd probably hunted the morning and then packed it out. That's what I'd have done.
The thing with this group though, in only 4 days, like
Two elk down is a lot of work.
dude, that's insane.
It's really nice to have one back to the truck and taken care of.
Yeah.
But is there something to be said about the psychological though, especially with
For
a newer group? You get to the truck,
Absolutely.
and you're like, all right, guys, we're going right back in.
Yeah. But you just got to have, you
You
just
got
get
it. That's the
And we did, and to your point, we didn't, not everybody on that team went back out, the evening after we killed. Not everybody on the team turned around at the truck and went back to go get the meat. Yeah. So like there were, I would say, like rookie type things. I mean, this is like Colorado's or Porter's hunt this year in sorry, I already said the state, Colorado, was, that was just one of my goals was like, don't be the limfac, as we say in the military. Like, don't
The
be
what?
the limfac, the limiting factor.
Oh, okay,
don't
yeah.
be the
The
thing
limfac.
that like
Limfac. I like it.
you gave me a acronym.
Yeah,
I feel like
I'll
I had to
take that
give
one
you
back. I
one.
like the limfac.
Yeah.
With your tattoo that you're going to get?
Yeah, limfac.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
Yeah,
that was
put a
like,
little-
I mean,
yeah,
that's
a
like
little
half,
play on it.
more
Well,
than half the motivation.
You go back to you start talking yourself into back to the truck, and then all of a sudden you burn time, and then you relocate, and then you spend time packing back in somewhere else, and all of a sudden it's day like 3 or 4 now. Or
It was really disappointing. That's why in hindsight, right? And like to your point, Brady, you're always learning, right? Like the one thing that kept ringing in my head was like, you don't leave elk to go find elk. You don't leave elk to find elk. And regardless of the decision to pull out because of our, like, I guess, inexperience on how to take care of the meat, you know, or, you know, worried about it, maybe something we didn't need to be worried about. I knew that we shouldn't be leaving because it was a pretty pressured unit, and I was like, we're in them.
Yeah.
And we were as far away from any of the roads as we could possibly get, and there weren't very many people camping. I mean, we saw some guys on horseback coming in. And then in hindsight, you know, we didn't really turn up any other opportunities for the rest of that hunt, and it was like, dang it, man.
That's a tough one. Hindsight's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that plenty of times though. Killed
100%.
elk, packed an elk out, turn around, bomb right back in. You know, and just it depends on how many people you got in your group. You know, and how much weight you're going to be packing. But
I think Porter said it too, though. Like when you are back in the mountains and you're going to go back to your truck, there is something very difficult about turning around. Like maybe you guys got all the way back and they're packing the boat. Like maybe we should go get a hotel tonight.
Yep.
So now you go get a hotel, and you're like, then you hunt that next day. You're like, well, we're just going to continue hunting out of the hotel. And now your whole strategy changes because it became so comfortable to be back there when you should have stayed there the whole time. You're already there.
Yep.
And like just thoughts start creeping in your head about not hunting as hard as the days go on, and like
We were talking before the decision was made to really like pull out. We were just talking about, do we take the meat back to the truck first, or we take like the camp back? And I remember thinking, no, I want to take the meat first, because
then you have to
you
come
gotta
back.
come
Yeah.
back.
No, there's something to be, and like I mean, even like you did it a couple times to me, like experienced hunters like you guys or Lorenzo, like there is no issue going to the truck and back. Like no one's gonna get change their mental thoughts. You guys have done it so many times. The newer hunters, there's that psychological. All of a sudden, they like get back. They, have a couple Pringles.
I only had that happen one time. I killed a cow elk one time, and I packed half of it out, bone in. So I had half a cow elk, right? Hind quarter, front quarter, backstrap tenderloin. I got to my truck, and I sat down, and I remember this very vividly. I was sitting in the front seat, and I was just going, I don't think I'm going back. I don't think I'm going back. And I probably sat there for 35, 40 minutes wrestling myself. And I was just like, you have to go back. I have to go back. So then I scrounged through my truck, found a Mountain Dew. I think I found some gummy bears. And I was just like, killed those, sat there. I was like, yeah, I'm going back.
You're
So
back in-
I went
you're
back
back
and
in
got
the
it.
game.
But
Yeah.
I have had it. But yeah, hot tip, keep some Mountain Dew in your truck, I guess.
It's weird the things that I think about that are so different than you guys about like logistics or planning or everything. I mean, Zach and I were talking this weekend just about hunting in Wyoming, for example, and it was like, I don't know anything about grizzlies. Like I don't know anything about being in grizzly country. And the reason I got to this thought was because I remember your guys' hunt where Brady kept telling you it's just one more ridge, but we're just gonna go right over
That's
there.
exactly what I was
Just
thinking.
we're
He
just
did
gonna
that
go
to
right over that
me
ridge.
and Mather, our film guy, and we're like, what the hell is he up to?
we're getting close. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just one more bump over. We'll be
He did
there.
that for 5 hours.
And then you guys killed, and then I think in the video you're like, we're like 6 miles ish from camp.
Not the truck.
Yeah,
camp.
not from the truck. Yeah.
No, but he did that. Like, if you could go
Did
back.
that help you like psychologically? Like,
Yeah,
would-
it did. Like, if back in that situation, if you're ever like, now you're more experienced and you have some newer hunters are with it,
Yeah.
you shouldn't even, like, you should get one down, make sure that meat's okay, and then they'll be like, how about this pack up? It's not gonna be that bad.
You gotta talk them
Yes,
and
yeah.
comfort people.
And
walking
then
apart.
you get another one down and you be like, guys, this is gonna suck.
So is that the same for like grizzlies? Like, should we be worried about
Well,
grizzlies?
we-
Like, nah, it's
Well,
fine.
that's-
Don't
I don't know if
even
you
worry
ever heard. I don't know if you ever heard, but like when we were packing on my buck, like Porter kept saying, "Is there grizzlies around here?" I'm like, "Oh no." Like I was smushing grizzly tracks in the trail, so
perfect.
they wouldn't see it behind me. I don't want them to be nervous about it. I was like,
Yeah.
"We're good."
No, I
I know
mean
where we're
that's
going.
that's understandable, right? Like when you're in kind of a iffy situation, there's no reason to add emotion.
Yeah,
to
Mather
it.
are panicking is not gonna help the situation.
Well, you don't get spun up easily, so
No,
it's like
no, definitely
it's not a big deal.
But even thing we were talking about before too, that's like you can sometimes use darkness as your best friend. Like a lot of people, like not to say everyone's scared of the dark, like when you're out in the mountains. Like if you're in grizzly country or something like that, maybe you should be a little cautious. But like another thing I would do if you're trying to pack an animal and it was going to be warm, I'd pack it out in the dark.
Really?
Like, cause I'm comfortable. That's where experience probably comes into play. That I'm comfortable navigating in the dark. I can navigate a map. I can navigate, through the mountains to get down where I need to be. So like
got it.
instead of wasting good hunting time, if you were concerned about that, if it was a warm hunt or whatever,
Yeah.
I would utilize darkness
Well,
because you can't
let's-
hunt during then. Might as well do something productive
I
again.
feel like we have to be super transparent to our audience. If you're going to bring up that Wyoming hunt, there's
I knew where this was
you
going.
have.
I can see it
I
all
don't know
over
where
the
this is
place.
going.
I can
You
see
talk
it
about.
developing.
I prefer in the dark.
It's just like reading a book.
I just want to
can
make
just
sure
see it
we're being
washing.
honest to our audience of like,
Trill's enjoying this.
was there a shortcut perhaps you tried to take that was not ideal on that hunt?
Objection, leading the witness.
The way you wanted to go is go down a trail, add more miles that we've never, like, it's going to somewhere you've never been to before. I'd rather not go something I've totally never been to. And yeah, we weren't in this area as well, but we tried to go up a little spot that was pretty steep. And then, I mean, your headlamps were also dying. I wanted to it was already like 2 a.m. I was like, we can just camp here. We can start a fire.
I always wonder why you guys.
That was such a sketchy pack
Yeah.
out. You have to admit that pack out was so sketchy.
It was so long. It was so brutal. Like the miles were brutal. The deer had, that weird cancer thing on his face or whatever. So like it was stinky as well. So we had a lot of like grizzly attractants on us. But I was comfortable like just camping too. Like we could just camp right there and not made it back to camp. And you guys were all about we're going to continue to go on the whole hike.
Had our backup headlamps at camp.
Yeah. All the charge brakes were back at camp.
Low on water and low on food because we left that morning just going one more ridge.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, Scott, is it's situational.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you just got to make small decisions one at a time and just, be safe above all and just kind of take it from there.
Yeah.
Go with your gut. I tell people that a lot. Like, what's your gut telling you?
See, there's a corollary to flying here as well. That like, I think go with your gut is great advice when you have experience. When you have no experience, how do you trust your gut?
Yeah.
Because you don't even. It's like a kid playing in traffic to a degree.
But in saying that, like even innately, is there not like some sort of like my gut tells me, self-preservation is part of it, right?
I think the corollary to flying that I was going to make is that like things can snowball so fast, and it's hard to predict how quickly things can go from bad to worse without any experience. And so I think that either leads people down two paths. You either go ultra conservative where you're like, I'm going to buy no risk, or you kind of go Leroy Jenkins into like, I'm just going 6 miles in. You're like, did you bring water? You're like, water, dude.
Water.
Yeah. We'll find it, dude. Let's go. And then you're like, that's also not ideal.
Yeah.
I don't think you made a massive mistake for the record. Like I think hindsight's 20/20, especially now that you're more comfortable back there. You're like, I should have just kept everybody back there and figured it out later.
Yeah.
Because we had food, we had shelter and all that. But like at the time, you're a little bit worried about the meat. You had
well, I mean, it definitely played in this year when you were making your decision about where to go on your elk hunt or your elk hunt this year.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, we're going to go in. I remember when we left the truck, I was like, not coming out. Like we're like,
true.
We're going in and like, that's it.
Yeah. When we when we were up there, we were never going to go back to the truck for supplies and back in.
No.
Like when you're up there, there's something mentally about leaving that is like, you ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Is there any part of that was is it intimidating at all? Like venturing out into the woods, into the wilderness, you're living off your back.
I think so. I mean, that's part of for me, that was part of the adventure.
You like that?
Yeah, that was the fun. Can we figure out how to make this work?
Gotcha.
Even when, Chris kind of was like, you're going to go, when I went scouting by myself in Colorado, he said, you're going to go scouting by yourself. And we talked this year about me going, I didn't really have anybody that I could go hunting with this year. So I was going to buy another over-the-counter tag before he had asked if I wanted to go with him. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go. I'll just go by myself. That was the only point at which I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Like, could I stay alive? Yes.
You'd spent nights before on your own, right? Before
Totally.
the scouting trip?
Yep. I think for me, it was more the responsibility of like, could I do everything on my own, right? Could I take care of the meat
Gotcha.
By myself? I wasn't worried that I was going to do something stupid. But what if you roll an ankle? What if you're like back there or whatever, right? Like, I'm just going to in-reach my buddies and be like, hey, buddy, Porter.
Can you drive to Colorado and hike in?
Or you just hear my wife.
Bring a horse.
Yeah. So that was
Solo backpack hunt when you're newish
it's on my bucket list. Like I'm getting closer. I'm warming up to it.
You
for
got
sure.
Actually both these guys they prefer to hunt solo. I try to hunt with them and they actually don't prefer. They don't want anyone around.
Really?
Do you guys both?
I kind of like having the decisions all to myself. Whatever I want to do tomorrow. If I want to go glass this knob, that knob.
I just told the guy yesterday I could read this verbatim. He was like, "How much? What do I got to pay I didn't kill an elk this year. What do I got to pay to go with me next year?"
You can tell people that was my text.
But we got exchanging messages, and one of the things I said to him, I was like, I don't know, this is going to come out of left field maybe a little bit, but I said, I'm a lot more effective on my own. Like I am undoubtedly, I am a better hunter on my own than I am with somebody else.
Why
I
is
typically
that,
am
Trail?
more successful and I kill better animals. I think it's because the decision making, it just comes down to me. Like I make a decision and I go for it. And there's nobody there to like talk me out of it. Like, hey, don't go that far.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of that. Like, I try to be responsible, but there's no like, I mean, initially you're sitting on a hillside, you look at an animal. If you got a buddy, the first thing you do is you turn to your buddy. What do you think? And you guys sit there and you kick back and forth ideas and you talk about it and you kind of go with it here and there. And sometimes I think it leads to like a little bit of self-doubt in me. Cause I'm like, oh, he might've thought this. I think this. Whereas I'm hunting on my own. Like this is what I feel like I should do. I drop a point on a map of where an animal's bedded. I trust that point because I made it and I'm going for it. Like there's no question in my mind. I'm just there. And like I slow down. I'm a lot more patient on my own because I don't feel like I'm managing somebody else's expectations I'm like, and I don't know if everybody is this way. Camera guys will tell you this. Like
I was just about to say.
Yeah, I like
what you're known for.
Yeah, like I feel. I don't know what I'm empath. Maybe they call it. I feel for people. Like I want them to have a good experience. I want them to like feel okay, not be hungry, sleep well. Like not be afraid. So like I feel a lot of that. Whereas if I'm on my own, I don't feel any of it. Like no pressure whatsoever from somebody else, and like nursing that along, and I just go and do. Is that what you're gonna say?
I was asking. Well, I asked Mather because Mather's our film guys hunted with both of you a lot. And I think I asked him when we were in Wyoming. I'm like, is Trail, because you're known to go deep, just like Brady, and I'm like, Are they real similar to hunt with? And he's like, no, polar opposites. And I'm like, really?
wow.
What do you mean?
Go with it.
I'm dying to hunt with Trail. He's a solo guy though. I'm trying to talk him into some sort of tandem, but he, I was like, no, Brady is like what he did to us yesterday. One more ridge. Slightly tricking you, but still ethical, right? Like he's gonna just go hard. Trail, he's like every 100 yards stops. You okay, bud? You good on water? You good? You good?
Not
You got
every
food?
100.
You're carrying
Matter
Trail.
said
Wow,
you
soft
are
spot.
absolute Papa Trail.
That's
Probably why
I got
you like
three kids.
That's why you like to hunt solo. Is like you're not having to worry about.
Yeah, I don't feel any of that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm more effective. So I would be interested if you decide to bite the bullet and go for it. If you come back kind of feeling a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Because and I like to hunt with people. I think it's good. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. It's like a different experience. But like if I'm going out and I'm like I'm here to kill, and I'm here to kill the best possible animal that I can find, like I'm more effective on my own. That was advice I gave him. I don't know if he loved it or not, but I was like, you might think about it.
He's like, I've never had an elk tag trail. I'm just
No, he's had it. Okay. Anyway,
Brady, same for you or
Oh,
different?
100% the same.
Yeah.
Like I would like what Trail said is spot on. Every decision is my own. I can go if I want to just sleep right there. I can sleep right there. If I want to go hike all night to get back to my camp, I will hike all night to get back to my camp.
the other good thing is if you do screw up, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind. It's like, I don't know. He wasn't there when I got there. Bummer.
And the only thing I've ever done, like when I have Luke with me all the time, I do have to ask him sometimes, like, if this is too sketchy, do let me know and we will make some alternative decisions. But like, we're going to drop off this cliff. We're going to cross this freaking river. We're going to climb up the other side, another cliff. Like if you're uncomfortable at any time, let me know so we can just divert the plan right away because this is my plan. This is what I would do if you weren't here.
Yeah.
And so like, if he says no, what am I going to do?
You're still going. He's just not.
We're filming, so I have to.
Bye.
So if he says no, that's going to impact how I'm going to go kill this animal, and that's what sometimes the hard part to deal with. But it's like I love hunting with people because it's fun, but I would much rather hunt by myself.
Yeah.
I can target a specific animal. I can just go after it. I can play it slow if I need to. I can go fast. Like and don't have that same like the weighing decisions. Like oh maybe we should give him until tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, what if I would have went today to try to kill that animal? Would I have killed it?
Less variables. That
What
makes
do
sense.
you like about hunting?
I think the challenge and the complexity of it for me at this point is it's intoxicating. And I didn't appreciate it enough in 2020. I think this year, I heard you say about your hunt this year, it's the most fun you've ever had without killing.
Hands down.
Because we saw a lot of bulls. We saw a lot of action. So I like I like going in with a complete unknown and then coming out with, whatever we made happen or didn't. I mean,
I felt bad not tagging out with him. He wanted it so bad.
well, that's just the competitive side of me. That's like,
Yeah,
I
why
wanna
are you out
finish
there
the
if you
job,
don't want
right?
to?
Like we're here, like let's
That's
do
the
it.
goal.
Let's do it, right?
Yeah,
and
I
I
get that.
was for sure. I mean, Nate's here. He can back it up or not. But I mean, last day I was like, what's wrong with that one? What's wrong with that one? What's wrong with that one? What's wrong with
I
that one?
remember
You got a round in the
the
chamber?
podcast.
Wait, you're not out of ammo, are you? Like, what
You new to this?
you want me to?
Yeah.
You want me to chamber around for you? That's fine. Let me set the rifle up. So, then that's not just to like kill to kill. It's really just the difference in like you have the expertise and the experience to like you know what you're out to get that time, and you had a standard and you were gonna stick to that. It's not that I just wanted to see death. Like I think that's what like Nate said or something. You're like, Scotty just wanted something dead, and I was like, all right, like I'm
Little
not.
Nate did too.
Yeah, he
Little
was. I mean,
Nate.
he was definitely poking me, and he was
Yeah.
just like, dude. I was like, I know, man. Like, it's more just about like getting experience of walking up on an animal and like taking care of the
for
meat
sure.
and packing it out and that whole
100%.
thing. So
You
I mean,
get that whole other experience.
there's really nothing that I've come across that I dislike at this point. Like the challenge is worth it. I make some mistakes. I hate it when I make a dumb mistake. Like I screwed my feet up this first day out the gate, right?
Oh, this is a great tip.
It's so stupid. It's like embarrassingly stupid. So I had my Scarpas, the self-proclaimed
Ones
boot.
he's got on. Put your feet up here.
Oh, jeez.
There it
Just
is.
did squats and deadlifts.
I just did squats.
These bad boys?
Those bad boys. So got
200 grams insulation.
got those last season. Put a bunch of miles on with you in Colorado, and Chris. I mean, I guess it wasn't that much, but it was also the same boot I wore on my hunt in Colorado earlier that year. So I felt great. They were broken in. I've been training. Hadn't done a lot of rucking leading into that hunt, but what I remember was that like the insole that comes with that had started to get worn out on my left foot. So 2 days before the hunt, I went and bought insoles.
Pop
Put
some
him-
Dr. Scholl's in there.
Put him in. Hadn't like walked with him at all, and it was like 2 days before the opener. We did a super mild 1.5 2 mile, whatever it was,
On a horse trail. We were scouting.
super. And maybe I was walking too fast because like juices are flowing. We're just excited or whatever. From the truck to the top, when we sat down on the top, I go, "Does anybody have a first aid kit?" And Porter's like, "What?" And I was like, "And you guys have already
Right
heard my
away.
whole like, don't be a lymphac." I mean,
Yeah.
it took me 10 minutes to get the courage up to just be like, "Can I see somebody's first aid kit?" My heels were bleeding, and he was in those boots. That heel is so hard.
Yeah.
I think I only raised my ankle like half a millimeter, but it worked my ankles, and we didn't turn anything up for a
You
couple of
basically
days.
overrode all of the breaking in you had done, right? It was
Yep.
like
That was
a
it.
brand new boot to
And
your feet.
As soon as we got back to the truck, I ripped them out. I ripped the insoles
was
out.
so-
I was furious.
So
That hurts.
Because I'll tell you, because it waterfalled. And then when we were hiking all the way in on that 5 mile hike or whatever, you start compensating for your heels being jacked up. And then my hip flexors start
Yep.
hurting, right? And
Oh, yeah.
you do all this training, you do all this preparation to get in there. It's so easy to mentally let that one mistake compound. And so that's the one thing I know I need to work on is that like when something doesn't happen the way you want, whether you make a bad decision to pull out or it's the right decision or whatever, or you do something dumb like that, let it go. Like move on. Like let's keep it. Let's
he
keep
was
it
so
rocking.
mad because he's so sensitive about holding us back, and he didn't hold us back at all. We threw him up on a knob,
My knob.
Scotty's knob, and he was
guy's
highly
on knob.
productive and efficient. He didn't need to hike around, but his feet were. It was the worst I've seen. They were torched,
Ouch.
torched.
But again,
that hurts.
lesson learned. We'll not do that again
Sure.
from here on out.
Yeah. We've had you for what, 2 hours? 2 hours, Scotty. That went quick. You have any other questions for us?
I mean, I could pick your guys' brain for another hour, but Chris is probably like, dude,
Take
What?
one.
this is
Yeah,
like
take
every-
give
another
one.
one. We got time.
What do you got?
If you got one.
Yeah, I was thinking about these on the way down here. So I guess from a mule deer Jesus perspective, and then like an archery
Everything.
everything perspective.
mule
Like
We have to dive into this.
not true,
further.
not true. I've wildly respect.
Do you want to
mule
sit down in
deer.
my office? We can have a little chat.
Yes, we need a counseling session.
We have a couch.
If you guys, because you are talking to someone that's 4 years into this, what would you say, what would be maybe the top 1 or 2 things that you would say focus on this process in order to be a better killer, like in the wherever, backcountry or whatever? Is there even something you could boil down to that level?
I mean, we talk about a lot is animal biology.
Okay.
It literally comes down to me is knowing what an animal does, what they need to survive in the mountains, what their daily needs are, not just a weekly needs, what it needs that day, what does that animal need tomorrow, and just learning how animals move through the mountains, learning just everything you can about what makes an animal tick, why they do what they do constantly throughout the year. And it changes seasonality. Like when you go out on your scouting trip in the summer, what that elk is doing, I'm going to say elk because he's an elk guy. Okay. But I would have said mule deer trail.
Okay.
Like what's he going to do in the summer is going to be different than what's he do in September, what's he do in October, what's he do in November. Like all that stuff changes, and you're starting to understand how you can use that in your e-scouting, how you can use that in whatever shooting prep, like all that practice, like Porter, like on his hunt, should have, practiced getting up and leaning against something, like knowing those situations are going to arise based on these bulls are going to be in the thick timber. It's going to be thick. It's not going to be the open, not going to be a lay down at the range. Like learning what an animal does every single day, I think is something that, it's rooted in science for a reason. Like you can trust animal science and biology. If you can learn a bunch of that stuff, you could take that and just become a better hunter, because I think you're giving a leg up on your experience, because you can read, you can consume it 24/7, 365. You can read a book, dive into biology. I think biology reports are key to me. Like I love that side of it because I have a biology background, but I think a lot of people don't take that into account. Like, oh, it's going to need to, you can read about a hunt story all the time about how someone was successful, but it's like, well, probably came down to he kind of knew what the animals were doing, when they were doing, how to like think ahead of the animal. Like, oh, you got pressure, where are they going to go? How to react to that when you're out in the field. You can only know that by knowing what animals do.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
I would say always play the wind. First and foremost, you'll never be an elk's nose. So always play the wind. I would also kind of lean into Brady's answer, just animal behavior, and maybe take it a little bit further and say when I'm out there and I'm looking at animals or I'm looking in a landscape, think strategically. It's like, where is the most likely spot for an elk to be and why? And then if I find that elk, like why is that elk going the direction he's going, and where is he most likely to be tomorrow? Think strategically. So like as you're out there, you're processing and you're looking at like what is the thing that I'm going to have to do to kill that elk. So if that elk is calling and he's bugling, maybe I can use that to my advantage. If they're not calling, but you're still seeing elk, like what kind of things can I do to still put myself in a position to get an archery shot? So if that's sitting water or wallow or an ambush point, I would say just, constantly be thinking like strategically, how do I get within range of that animal, and utilize whatever behavior they've got going on kind of to your advantage. This is kind of a dumb answer, but it's probably the most, probably these two actually I think are the most, the things that I think I'm probably best at. Just getting up and going, just going. So like, I don't ever miss a morning. I hunt till dark, after dark, hike back to camp in the dark. There's so many times that you can talk yourself into like, well, I'm going to be back to camp, before it gets too dark, because I don't want to risk the chance of, falling or whatever. Or, oh, I'm kind of tired today, I'm going to sleep in, I'm not going to make the hike up to that knob. It's really easy to like talk yourself out of those things. But the thing I use, just my own personal motivation, I say this all the time, like I'm going to spend probably 300 days a year behind my desk at my computer. I sure as shit I'm going to get up when I'm out in the woods, because that is my opportunity. That is my one chance to get up, and like I'm going to get up and I'm going to stay out no matter what, and just like go for it. Yeah. Like you have to have, you legitimately, I think, to be successful year in, year out, you have to have a very like go for it attitude. Like I'm going to go for it. You have to be just super determined, and then time. Like to be a consistently good archery hunter, I think you just have to have consistent days in the field. I would tell people, like, if you're trying to do a weekend hunt, great, if that's the most time you can get. But if you can get like 8-10 days, get the most time that you can consecutively, because it might take you a long, 4 or 5, 6, 7 days to figure those animals out before you can actually put yourself into a position. So I don't know if that's where I would say though.
Mm-hmm. The mental side, I think, is really huge.
Time,
like
mental. Yeah.
If you could do 4 days, break 4 days, would you do that, or 6 straight days?
6
straight.
straight.
I agree. That was something.
That was
Some of those
unanimous.
Nevada like deer tags,
Yeah.
where they're not that. It's like 2-hour drive, 3-hour drive. It's so easy to talk yourself into like
Oh, I bet.
Thursday to Sunday, Thursday to Sunday.
Oh, yeah,
Every
soccer
time you come
game,
back,
yeah,
it's
whatever.
like you gotta.
Yeah,
spend
you're
years
starting
learning.
all over again,
Yeah,
especially for elk because they move so much.
Yeah.
You know, and then I think I've been a lot more successful when I've moved with the animals, you know, kind of moving, living with them, staying out there. And just the more time that you're in close proximity, you're putting eyes on them and you're figuring out a way to cut the distance, the more effective you are. You just keep at it. Keep
Yeah, it's
at
like
it,
reps
keep
and
at it.
sets, right? You just
Reps,
keep-
reps. Yeah.
And you'll see people like they'll end up spending the same amount of PTO days by taking a Thursday, Friday throughout like a September elk season, where they're better off just taking a week and saying, I don't care if this is only an hour from my house. I am not coming back. I
Yeah.
have 7 days and I'm going to make the most of it.
Yeah, just commit to the moment and stay in it.
Time in the field is critical.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't get to the bottom of the alien debacle. Or
You're
what's
holding
going
out.
on.
I
But
know you're holding out. I
I-
know it. You know what? The first time I walked, I met Scott, Air Force pilot. He's like, third question. Have you seen an alien? And he's like,
I was like, no, have you? And he's
No.
like, yes.
And I knew he was lying straight away. I'm like, this guy's seen
If Trail's
one. I
seen
know.
one, you've definitely seen
You've
one.
seen one.
Well, I know this is just like Tuesday for you guys, but this was really fun for me. So thanks for
Scott, this was awesome.
thanks for humoring me and
Man,
letting me learn from you
I
guys.
really appreciate it.
Dude, how many years of hunting experiences at this table? Not counting me. What, 30, 40?
I don't know. I'm old. I'm getting old.
10 year.
A lot.
Do you guys want to hear a funny story about getting old real quick? And then we'll wrap it up. So I've been trying to, I've been pretty good about working out, right? New year, new me. But the last,
We're 8 days in.
the last few days, this is kind of funny, but the last few days I was just like, I'm just going to do like a 20-minute, 30-minute workout in my basement right before work. So pull up the YouTube, Google it, 15-minute workout, right? So the first one is just like this gal, and it's just like your basic calisthenics, okay? And it's like, squat, jump, twist, the full thing. So I'm like 10 seconds into it, and I'm like doing this thing, and I was like, holy shit, when did I get this uncoordinated? Like, I could not believe it. And then the next thing I noticed, I'm starting to look like windows in my basement. Like, who could possibly see me right now? Because this is so embarrassing. So that was like a moment where I was like, okay, I'm definitely getting old. But
What color leotard were you wearing when you were doing
hot pink.
Hot pink.
Yeah, unicorn down the side.
In your defense, if it's something you haven't done in a long time,
Oh
you're
my
gonna
gosh.
you'll get sore and you'll be like, I should not be sore from
Couldn't
that.
go
but
down the
it's like-
stairs. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm getting old, but yeah, but we appreciate you
Well,
coming.
thank you guys.
Thank you
Seriously.
again.
That
Thanks,
was awesome.
Scott.
That was awesome.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Andy King.
With that, we're out.